And then you were going to watch me do a bunch of very boring tapping and copying and pasting and sharing.
As soon as I keep
a bunch
this
of very boring tapping.
And there we go. Keep myself from reverberating on myself, which is a hell of a phenomenon.
Which it's going to do again. Where are you? There we go. Okay. I can no longer seem to share directly to our Revolution, Pennsylvania, by the way. I have no idea what that's about. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. God bless Facebook for asking me every single time, do I want to pay and boost that post? I do not.
They have to make their money.
I probably should. I probably should, but it gets a little pricey after a while. I probably should, though. I'll have to tell you guys about that part. Come on now, come on now, come on.
We don't.
Slow. Tap, paste, publish. So again, folks, this is the fun me sharing the program out. The 10 most unproductive minutes in all of broadcasting, and the least fun to watch. It is necessary evil of what we do here. We are sharing the program to our regional and national outlets currently. Although I suppose, considering it is the wild, wild west of the internet, isn't everything really an international outlet, depending on how you look at it? Just suddenly made myself very important. How many international outlets I'm on. Seven.
What does that cup say?
Best of Baltimore.
Had me there. I was looking around like, I got a cup here? I have a cup here somewhere.
Oh no,
I
not
do.
you.
I do, but it's off screen. I do, but it's off screen. You guys getting affected by this storm at all, or did it already blow through?
No, just cloudy here. A little gray. That's typical.
Well, what should be typical for the area would be humidity, right? Boy, Maryland is like notorious for hot, humid in the summer.
That is correct.
It is almost unbreathable up here. I'm asthmatic, and it was not pleasant. Like the past few days, it's been so humid, it's been difficult to even breathe. It's just unpleasant. And it's not air quality. I don't think. Oh, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure the air quality is not good either. But I don't believe it's directly air quality. I think it's so humid. It's heavy. It's like on you.
Sticky.
It's like a bad blanket. It's just like on you. It's like, ugh. You're ready. And I like summer. I'll take more summer, but not like this. My goodness gracious. 4:59. I should probably shut up. Get myself in gear here. Okay, that's everybody there. Just me refresh. There we are. Share to group. Here we go. Boom. 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 You. You. What's JP? I have no idea. I have to mute this thing though. I don't know what he's doing. That one. That one. That's. Every one of those little chirps is another group that we are sharing to.
Wow.
If you can hear those, that's what we're
Flat.
doing. I'm turning it behind.
Sounds like you guys need a social media intern.
You know what? The thing I talk about this all the time for a company that probably has some of the best computer programmers on the planet, they can't allow you to build a share list where you can put. Oh, I didn't mean to put that there. Where you can put all of your
Preferred
groups in
Yeah.
one, just on one list, and hit share to all, and just can't.
You have to get like
Okay,
it's like a Facebook tool.
just turn that down. Comments are on. Okay, gentlemen, here we go. In three. Oh no, wait. Get behind. There. Let's try that again. 3, 2.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 22nd of August, 2021. I'm trying to do things on my screen. I have two mouses, because when they're computer parts, we don't say mice. They're still mouses. I have two mouses in front of me, and I will consistently grab the wrong one throughout the program. Keep watching, make a little mark, take a shot every time I grab for the wrong mouse, because I just did it. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system and part of the Milky Way galaxy. And this is the Kennedy Effect for the 22nd of August, 2021. I have become a bit of a broken record about this, but folks, it's essentially the end of August already. This year has gone by at a nearly record pace. It has not always been good. In fact, the last week or so have been at a minimum interesting, given the first foreign policy real, I want to say crisis, because I actually don't think it is a crisis, but the first headline leading foreign policy story in this country in probably a good number of years. I would have to think about going back how far. So it probably seems like it's been a long week, but it does not feel like an entire week since we have been back here with you. This year has flown by, and in some respects, hey, great. 2020, good riddance. 2021, right, follow it right back out the door. But on the other hand, you know, as we continue, as more and more of us continue to get vaccinated and feel better, and even with, you know, the ideas of boosters, and that the bottom line, we have the science to make this a decent ending to what is going to be what is going to go down in history as a very quick year. We blinked and it was gone. For all of you across the Facebook universe, thanks so very much for being here today. Let me give a quick shout. Yeah, 92 places where we have shared this program this week. 92 separate places across Facebook, to each and every single one of you, every group, every page, everyone, individuals, because we do actually share that there are individuals who will continue to share the program out. We thank you very, very much. It has become a little bit cliche, I had been told, but it is nonetheless more accurate that we could not be here if you are not there. We need you. No radio program, television program, newspaper, blog, you name it. None of it exists without you on the other end. And so wherever you might be across Facebook, feel free to stay where you are. Listen, enjoy. I'm going to get in a fight. Am I going to get in a fight with my guests? I got a nose itching your nose. Never heard that old wives' tale? You're either going to kiss a fool or get in a fight. That's supposedly what an itchy nose means. It's an old wives thing. It's an old mom thing. Moms tell you that kind of stuff. So wherever you might be, please feel free to stay there, watch, listen in the background if you're preparing dinner, if you're hanging out with family, if you're in the backyard enjoying the weather, whatever it might be, or really, you can come over to our home group Facebook page. You know the name by now. It's That Other Side of Information, where you can continue to watch the program, listen to the program, but also we will see you. We can say hello to you. You can enter in comments and questions and agree or disagree or show suggestions or call me names or whatever it is that you want to do. You can do it there. If you have questions for the guests, we will ask it. If you have a comment on the topic that we might be discussing at the time, we will reference it. It is a great way to be a part of the program. That Other Side of Information, our home group page on Facebook. To our friends, family, sisters, brothers at hot101.net, welcome home. Thank you for being part of the program yet again, each and every single one of you. And no matter how it is that you might be listening, on your desktops, your laptops, your tablets, your phones, and now, of course, your smart speakers. You can tell Alexa, who's always listening to you anyway, we all know that. You can now tell her to play Hot 101 hot101.net. If you don't know how to listen to hot101.net outside of that smart speaker, let me walk you through it. It's super, super simple. Our main web address is our name. It's hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, you can get the hot101.net Apple app at the Apple App Store. If you have an Android device, you can go to the Google Play Store and download the app for hot101.net. Or if you have the TuneIn radio app, which works on any device on the planet, you can just search for us there, go up to the search bar and search for hot101.net. And to our friends and family at TCP, the Cultured Professional based right here in Lancaster, the TV and radio outlet, thank you for being here yet again. We are proud to be part of the TCP family. To Marquise, Whitney, Sarge, and Taekwon at TCP, welcome everyone and welcome all of you. And thank you for making us a part of your day and your viewing schedule. Now, let's get to the guests. We will open up the phone line, of course, later in the program as well, where you can talk to all of us, ask us your questions, and so on and so on and so on. Remember, the big whale that this captain of this boat is chasing is your phone calls right here. See that big empty space? That's where you fit in. We want to put your phone calls right in there. Let's get to our guests. Our guest tonight is very receptive and a very welcoming man for someone who has never heard of me before and just took a random outreach, you know, across LinkedIn, I think it might have been originally, and then email. He is a Democratic candidate for the city council in Annapolis, Maryland. Now, we started off what we kind of loosely was going to be a series of programs as we head into the fall general election for states across the country that have the quote unquote odd year elections. It is, all of you know or should know by now, one of the hats I wear is political consultant guy. That's one of the many, many hats that I wear. And it's hard to be a candidate. It can be very, very hard to be a candidate. It's very hard to be a first-time candidate, but it can be very hard to be a candidate pretty much any time in your life. It takes a certain something to put yourself out there, to become a public figure. And when you are what we tend to refer to as the upstart challenger, it can be even more difficult. Now, put on top of that, well, because you have to combat money from your opponents and the power and the name recognition that comes from incumbency. What's even more difficult on top of all of that is when your race is, to borrow a football term, a world football term, not fake American football, the real stuff, to borrow a football term, when you are relegated to an odd year election, years that most folks don't even know there are elections. Stepping up to the plate and taking on all of said challenges, not the least of which is sitting here listening to me ramble, is our guest this week. I shouldn't say he does have an opponent, Democratic candidate for city council in Annapolis, Maryland, and teacher. And that is Keanuu Smith Brown. Keanuu, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Jeff, and my campaign staffer as well, who's a leader here.
I was getting to Vincent. I was saying hello to you first. You're the candidate.
Your show today. And for giving the opportunity to talk through a lot of the issues I know that, as you and I have mentioned before, we are all facing across this country and nation, even outside of the nations. And so, you know, I appreciate you for offering this opportunity and for reaching out, because it is about all of us working together. So I appreciate that.
Joining us and joining you on the program this evening is your comms director, guru, chief of all things, top aide, sergeant at arms, bodyguard, What else am I missing? I know how many titles you have, and that is Vincent Moulden. Vincent, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jeff. You're probably the first person to accurately describe what it is I do. So I appreciate that.
Which is basically everything.
Which is basically everything.
It's the joy. It's the gift of radio. This is why I do radio, because I could have just said everything or gone through that ridiculous litany of titles and stretch the program out. But I appreciate you being here as well, Vincent, because I'll tell you what, as interesting, folks, as our conversation is going to be with Keanuu, it's going to be interesting to get a point of view from someone like Vincent. This is a first-time operation. Am I correct, gentlemen? So you're learning on the fly, just kind of like all the rest of us are, even to try to equate it to something that we might be used to. The first day at a new job, or the first couple months at a new job, a job we've never worked before, or a company we've never been with, or something like that. We're taking on a completely new challenge, starting a new career almost. It is tantamount to what you gentlemen are going through. But let me start with, if you don't mind, actually, no, let me do it backward. I'll do it a little backward. Vincent, who is Vincent Moulden and how did you get here?
That's always a tough question, right? Like, how do you define yourself? I guess the short of it is, like you said, guru of all. And how did I get here? Very funny story. So my daytime job, I work for the county executive of Anne Arundel, and I actually work with Keanuu's mom in the same office. Keanuu's mom is very, she gets what she wants, let's put it that way. So she says to me, I want you to help my son in his election. And I said, okay. And here we are. So I actually met Keanuu in January of this year. That's how, you know.
Oh. Uh-oh. Wait, when the comms director freezes, he's going to hear about that. Oh, he's going to hear about that. Oh, you did freeze it briefly, sir.
I froze? Oh, no.
The comms director froze. Oh, my goodness.
No. Which part did I freeze at? That's funny.
We're going to dock your pay, but since you're not getting any.
So now I owe the campaign.
You were describing meeting, pretty much, essentially you ducked out on us, when Keanuu's mother asked you to help, and you making what seemed to be a very quick decision to jump in and say, why the heck not? And then where you guys took off from there.
That's right. So, I mean, after Keanuu's mom made the ask, I met with Keanuu, and you spoke to him. He's very inspiring. It's hard to say no to him. So I immediately hopped on the team and did what I could. So that's how we're here today.
And of course, to the candidate, Keanuu. Who is Keanuu Smith Brown, and how did you get here?
You're muted.
I was just thinking, I'm glad I am so many things. I could describe myself. People too, I'm sure, can describe me in many different ways, whether it be positive or not. But I believe I'm a visionary. I'm a leader. I'm definitely an activist, an advocate. Many, but I am a man of faith, and I do believe in what's best. I believe that there's a better way. Always, you can find a better way, and you can always do more. I always believe that, and that if the opportunity presents itself, to just take it and to see what happens. I'm not as adventurous as that may seem. When it goes to going, traveling all these different places for weeks at a time. But when it comes to change, when it comes to making our lives better, I'm extremely adventurous, and I want to do the utmost to make it happen. And so, I'm completely honored to have the support of those like Vincent, who've been by my side, didn't even know each other, but you can know somebody in a short amount of time. And when you believe in the same things, or if you have the same ideologies or what have you, of course, it makes it a little easier. But when you don't always have the same ones, it can challenge you. And I can tell you that, Vincent, as well as many others on my team, and just my friends, my family, all those persons, my partner, they challenge me. And that's what helps me to grow and me to think outside of the box. But also to stay committed, because without them or without this vision, there would be no Keanuu. There would be no Keanuu. So that's where I come from. I come from the power of my family, a partner, friends, and our community.
Before we get too deep into issues, and I know that we will get into said issues, you have a full-time job, correct?
Yes, pretty much.
Outside of being a candidate, which is usually a full-time job, you have yet another full-time job.
Yes, yes.
And what is that?
So I'll be going back when school opens again as a teacher, substitute teacher at my first elementary school, Georgetown East Elementary School here in Annapolis. I'll be going back. So I have enjoyed it. I loved it. I work with elementary school kids, and I do believe that just kids in general, it's been a pleasure to work with them. So I'm staying here in education.
So why do this? Why get involved this way? You've self-described as a leader and activist, and wonderful. And I actually really desperately want to get into the conversation about the differences you've learned between activism and politics, because, by the way, they're two separate things. But and even if our guests don't agree with me, I'm going to keep preaching that to you folks. There is a difference between the two things, and every candidate that ever hires me is going to hear there's a difference between the two things. He droned on. But why do this? Is there I don't want to ask you, like, did you do it for the typical reasons because you don't like what's going on and because you fix it from the inside, that kind of thing? Or was there, or really, I guess it could be both. Was there a particular issue, a particular ordinance, a particular incident in Annapolis that led you to say, you know what? No, it's time. We have to do something different.
Well, yes, I do. Well, I think it's a mixture of many different things as well. So you have the kid in elementary school at Georgetown East in a circle touting a dream that he had to just become president of the United States. You have that kid that's still me, of course, in a different mindset today, who's grown, who have seen all of the different changes and the situations he's gone through in his life, whether it be poverty, whether it be going from place to place, whether it be lacking the resources to go to place, whether it be transportation included, that is, or any other thing that I've dealt with in my life, from overcoming cancer, seeing the traumatic instances of overdose and seeing the traumatic instances of doing drugs, addiction, and even domestic violence, things like that. So seeing all of these different situations in front of me, and growing up around that, it really developed just a thick, they call it a thick skin, but a thick skin in the way where I'm not fazed by someone telling me that something can't be different or that there isn't more out there for us to go and to achieve, whether it be together or whether it be individually. And so that little kid in elementary school that said that, the older I got, I started to see the power of politics, what legislative policy can do in people's lives. And that legislative process, which I did learn in college, is so amazing to me because and I say this all the time, the generational impacts that can come from the stroke of a pen. I know we've seen it even during the times of COVID, where, and it's still that time, but during the time of this COVID, you have a check can be written to you, $1,000 from a stroke of a pen. We can send checks to every American just because I believe, because of the circumstances and the situations that we're going through, it calls for it. And so I believe this is the time. It's calling for that type of change in city politics. When I graduated and came back home in 2019 here in Annapolis, growing up in my grandmother's home, who owned this home over 25 years, I came back home to here and I saw around me that there was not much difference. Not much had changed for people like me, and even those who are elders living in homes of 30, 40 years, many of them losing their homes. The generational wealth is now pretty much close to none because they no longer have property in their family's name. And so I'm seeing these changes that are not for the positive, but still under the direction of people who are in office for 8 years, 12 years, 16 years, and they're Democrats. And so I said, the time has come. It's come for us, not only as the youth or us as progressives, but us as people to unite with not just a vision that we may not all agree with, okay? We may not all agree with every single part, but a vision of making our lives better with the power that we have in our hands. And so I said, I have to do it. I have no other choice but to do it. If no one else will, which no one else did, I have to do it because that opportunity has afforded itself to me. I now am afforded that opportunity. And so I should take it. I have to take the reins. Been through too much not to. And so that's why I decided to run, you know, and
I considered doing it, but the commute to run from here to Annapolis is a bit rough. So I left it to you and decided to let you take care of it. Let me, Vincent, you're a biased opinion, let's be blunt. I mean, you're working with Keanuu, but have you seen or do you see the same thing in Annapolis that Keanuu sees? Is this, it's a hard question without trying to like somehow diminish Keanuu, and I don't mean it that way, but is this time so desperate for change that it's Keanuu, it's Joe, it's Taekwon, it's Sandy, it's Michelle, it's somebody's, we have to change things in our town. Is that partly, even if we go beyond his mother asking you to help, I mean, is this just that time that like, this is it, we are dusting off and saying enough, it's time to do something different?
Absolutely.
Do you see the same things in Annapolis that Keanuu sees?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, like you said before, Keanu's mom asked me to be part of the campaign. I noticed this energy in the city coming from the youth, particularly, right? It's younger people who are looking to take lead, looking to take the charge. And, you know, as that's happening, I found there was some resistance from what I'm calling the old guard, right? They're not willing to pass the mantle on. And in my mind, I'm just observing, and I'm a young person too. I'm 31, but I mean, even younger than me, my age and younger. What do you do? How do you stifle that energy? How do you say to this upcoming generation, no, it's not your turn yet. We're not ready for your vision when we are to inherit it, right? I mean, in my opinion, yes, I think it is a dire need for there to be a transition. And I think that the youth in Annapolis have picked up on that and they're willing and able to do it. So let's move along. But obviously we still rely on the wisdom of the elders to push us through. And my hope is that we can lean on them for that wisdom, that understanding, while also empowering us to take it on.
Keanuu, tell me about Annapolis. I would have to think that the majority of folks listening across the country and literally around the world know Annapolis. We know the Naval Academy. And that obviously is a big, big part of Annapolis, if not probably the reason most people know or have heard of Annapolis. Even with the Naval Academy there, and I certainly don't want to try to take it out of your answer if it's part of your answer, but tell us about Annapolis.
Well, you know, I can give you just a real life feel of what Annapolis is of today, because, yeah, as you mentioned, the Navy Stadium, we can talk about the historical significance of the city. But I think just to kind of bring to what we go through on a day-to-day basis, I'll tell you about it. And two, to your question previous, let's not also kid, I'm a government and public policy was my major. You know, politics is something I've always had a passion about, and I stuck with it after that dream, or after I said, oh, I want to be an elected official, or I want to, you know, work in government. I want to help to craft legislative policy. You know, I want to make these generational impacts. That's what I had since a kid. So it definitely was a map laid out for me to run for office and to be involved in the political spectrum, as well as community organizing. But I do want to be clear that it wasn't just the call on the people's end, but it was also the passion that I've brewed over the years too. And when it comes to Annapolis, we have 8 wards in this city. We have them demographics ranging from all kinds. Of course, you have Black persons, white persons, Hispanic persons, Indigenous, Asian persons, very diverse city. We have a mayor who's a Democrat. You have 7 other Democratic alder persons and 1 Republican at the time. Our city is the capital of the state. We have the governor lives in our city. You have all of the House of Delegates come to our city 3 months out of the year for the legislative session, 9 days legislative session. You have the senators, of course, our state senators, all housed here during the session, or some of them commute back and forth. I would say too that about Annapolis, we are a city that it's similar to a town, but we are a city that can truly make some generational change. Some change in our specific communities. You have people living in poverty, and you have people who are living of wealth. Usually it's the homes that are closer to the downtown city dock area that you would assume has a lot of wealth, but that wealth is spread out all across our city, as well as those who are impoverished. I grew up in 3 public housing communities in our city. You oftentimes won't hear that there's public housing in our city, but I grew up in 3 of those, as well as in my ward, there being 2.5, if you will, if you want to count affordable housing as public housing. We have many different businesses, one of the main ones being marine. So we have a lot of maritime life, I should say, a lot of maritime life here in our city. So a lot of our money, the driver for that, is usually coming from our waters and that business. Our businesses also do range, whether it be technology, commercial, restaurants, a lot of small businesses, but we do have a lot of companies who have come and stored here. And I will also say a lot of developers, or mainly one developer, to be clear, who have owned most of our property here in the city, and that's the Hyatt family. We could talk about that a little bit later, from my understanding as well. But our city, we are a very, I would say, a city that can set some precedent, a young and also an old city, because you have people who, I think our average age, we can maybe make a nice guesstimate, but about 45 to 65 years old. But you have a lot of new and up and coming persons, our youth, that is really, I think, going to take a hold of our city's population. If you want to count the population, I would say that now, although white persons are still kind of in the lead, it's a very close tie amongst white, Black, and Hispanic persons. Those are the 3 races, ethnicities that truly are in our city. And, just thinking beyond the box, I would say too, here in the city, most of my ward, if you want to call it parole section, it was annexed. The city purchased this from our county, and this was in the 50s that we did do that, annex that property. So Camp Parole, if you ever heard of the parole camps during slavery, that's what started here in our ward. And so whether you have Kuta Kinte, which is 2 in Annapolis, or even Alex Haley, who we just celebrated his 100-year, I believe his 100-year anniversary, or his birthday, I believe it was. So we have a lot of historical figures, even Harriet Tubman, who have come through our city, seeing that this was one of the slave trade places when they first came to our state in those ships. And so I would welcome anyone to come here to our city. You don't have to listen to the same old and say, oh, it's just about the city dock and downtown. We have it's an 8-mile radius, but we do have a city that is diverse in a way of where you can go and what you can enjoy. But there's a lot more that we have to bring here to the city, whether it is a more lively environment for our kids and our children and our teenagers and those who are older, our middle-aged persons, or even making our housing more affordable and taking a huge leap when it comes to our environment. But I can keep going on and on about our city. I keep going on and on about our city. But I would really encourage people to take a look at what our city, what's in our city, what we offer, the demographic or even the historical significance. I would really encourage y'all to take a look and see.
5:33 Eastern time. We're already a half hour in. At the beginning, I talked about how quickly this year has gone. Well, look how quickly the program is flying by. We are a half hour in. Wherever you might be on Facebook, and we have shared the program to over 90 different locations across the Facebook universe. Stay right where you are if you are comfortable there. enjoy whatever group that you are in. And there are some great groups that we are a part of, including a host of our revolution groups, the New Deal Democrats, a host of progressive and indivisible groups, as well as some environmental groups and some from Las Vegas and DC, and even some that will cross national borders. Whatever group it is where this program is, we thank you in that group. We thank you, the members of that group, and we just thank you across the Facebook universe for being part of our program, for tuning us in each and every week, so you can stay in any one of those 80 plus groups, and the national groups too, because really, I think about it, there's about a dozen of them that we go to as well. Justice Democrats, Free Speech TV, Our Revolution National. There's a couple of Pennsylvania Democratic Caucus sites that we go to. There's just a lot of different places that this program goes out. So stay where you are if you want to stay there and enjoy. Awesome, great. If you want to take part in the live chat, which is absolutely, dare I say, silent. You guys were all wound up last week, and now it's very, very quiet this week. I don't know if it's the humidity or the tropical storm, or if it's just the end of summer, or maybe you all went to a picnic and had just one too many today, but you're all quite quiet. But hopefully that will pick up. You can join the live chat. Our home group Facebook page is That Other Side of Information. You will see this video there as a good old-fashioned post. Tap on it, it blows up, fills the screen, and then you can start commenting away. You can comment, ask a question, yell at me, agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it might be. We want you to be part of that and do that. Be part of the program, whether you agree or not. And wherever you might be across the political spectrum, he tried to say, you are welcome here. We will not disagree. I can pretty much guarantee you that. And I will educate you. But you are welcome here. We will listen to each other and not scream and not name call. To our sisters and brothers at hot101.net, thank you again for allowing us into your lives on yet another Sunday evening here on hot101.net. You can listen to hot101.net through the main website, which happens to be, I said it quite a few times, it's hot101.net. You can get the apps. There are multiple apps. There's the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. If you have an Android, you can get a hot101.net app there, or tune in radio. Go to the search bar, hot101.net, and you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. One of these times I'm going to conduct a very informal poll. I'm going to shout into the microphone as loud as I can, hey Alexa, play hot101.net, and see how many Alexas around the world I can get kicked on. We're going to try that one of these times. Also, our friends at TCP, the Cultured Professional from Lancaster, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are pleased, honored, and humbled to be part of the TCP family, both on television, on their Facebook, which is well over 8,000 regular listeners and followers, their television outlet on Roku, and their worldwide global internet radio outlet, WTCP. We are thrilled to be part of it. We will be opening up the phone line later in the program. For now, you can live chat with us. You can email us, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. You can live tweet us at that Kennedy Talk, at that Kennedy Talk, or search for That Other Side of Information, twitter.com, That Other Side of Information, and just be part of the program. Ask us your questions, interact. You are part of this program. We could not be here if you are not there. Keanuu, what is the big, well, let me skip and say, let me back up and say, how important, you talked in your description of your city about the diversity of it, and not just the diversity in population, but the diversity of what that population does, and even the geographical makeup of the city. Again, I do think most people will think of Annapolis and they think it's on the water, again, because the Navy is there, and that certainly makes sense. How dependent is Annapolis on tourism, and how desperately did and has the ongoing pandemic conditions affected your city? I can only imagine that for the, 6 months at a minimum, if not longer, when everything was shut, that businesses, people, the tax base in your city must have been absolutely devastated.
Yeah, so we heavily rely on tourism, and I think that's a huge part of what goes into where we invest in our city. No, actually, I don't even think I know it is a huge part of where we invest in our city. And that's why when you hear Annapolis, you only hear downtown or city dock, because that's where a lot of our monies have been poured into to keep that tourism alive. And I believe in tourism. I think that we do need to highlight our city in a way where people can feel invited from all areas of life and walks of life and places, wherever it may be. But I believe that we also have to make our residents happy, and that our monies should be more so directed towards the communities that are impoverished, as well as just our residents as a whole. And so during the COVID, um, even still during this pandemic, we have seen our businesses now having to resort to being outside. And let me be clear about that. Specific businesses have given the opportunity to be outside to make their monies during a certain time of day. And so this is called like night under the stars, or you have the opportunity to be out in front, which kind of led to that, but out in front of your restaurant so that it's not too packed inside. So we've given a lot of businesses that freeness to be able to do it. But I would even go further and say people have been kicked out of their homes. You've had people who don't even have food at their table, so we've had an increase in food pantries and shelter. I know a lot of our shelters, specifically one, the Lighthouse, have received an influx of new persons coming in and even trying it out. And a lot of the churches, if not organizations, are beginning to step up a little more. Unemployment has definitely too been an issue in our city, but when it comes to employment and lack of housing and not having food on the table, these are issues that have always been. They've just been exacerbated under COVID. And so I would say there's a lot of work we could have done, like looking to a mechanism that I know one of my bros on the city council even presented during the time of possibly, like we did at the state level, giving a certain amount of funds to those that are most in need from our COVID relief budget, the budget that we've got from COVID for COVID relief. But that didn't happen. And so a lot of our focus, even with overdose and even with alcoholism, these things increased in our city. And so I would say 16, even beyond 16 now, but over 16 in my ward of 3. And so it's very concerning that our people here are just not finding a place to work. They can't find a place to work nearby. We're having to commute 20, 30, 40 minutes. A lot of us, of course, are being virtual, but our kids, our youth have been stuck in just a place where they can't truly succeed because they don't have access to internet, or they don't have a way to get to school, or even when it's virtual, they don't have an actual laptop or a desktop to go onto their school for their school classes. And so our kids are not learning in the same way as we see statewide, nationwide. Our families are not benefiting in the same way from our city government because they're lacking responses, or our legislators don't even have answers for them. And so we've been greatly impacted. And I just pray that in this new age, or what we're about to see here, that people realize it's just time for something different. Because if you keep sticking to the same thing, you're not going to see the positive that you're so longing for. And then you can't come to me and say that I didn't do my best, or I didn't do, because I've been here. So we have to really inspire people to want to get involved and to stand up even in the midst of all their trouble, which is the same trouble that, or similar trouble that I've gone through and still go through. And many of my friends and family and even my residents, they still go through, but we have to look beyond it and say, let me actually trust and have faith that a person who is so loyal to his word and committed to the vision and to making that change, let me just do something a little different and vote. Now that they're all going to get ballots in the mail due to this COVID, we're going to be sending ballots to all registered Democrats in our ward, which is over 1,700. And so those 1,700, I'm sure they've seen the trials during COVID, whether it was, their job, their home, whatever it may be. And I believe that they'll be able to take that pain and put it on their ballot and prayerfully select me to represent them in Ward 3.
This is probably a more accurate pre-COVID question. Given the tourist area that Annapolis is and can be, has the jobs, wealth created, activity, economic activity from that tourism being, do you feel it's being equally distributed? Has it been squandered? Has it been unequally distributed? Has it been, I think, is it generally good for the city, not good for the city? Although you would obviously not want any tourism whatsoever, but is it your contention? Because I'm kind of getting that from your answer, that you don't think that the good aspects of economic activity that tourism has brought Annapolis have possibly not rippled through the entire city.
Yes. So it's always, no matter what it is, so whether it is tourism or property taxes, which is where we actually get most of our monies from, to our budget, whatever it is, it's the allocation of it from our legislators. So the mayor decides by proposing the budget, and the city council will either change a few things or keep it the same, and they allocate it to those when those funds are allocated to departments. I could say, no, I believe that this is where that money should go, or no, I believe that we need to take money from this. And I don't believe in our city that we've had those funds into the places that they need to be. Most of our money is going towards fire, well, let's say police first, then fire, and then to our pensions and healthcare insurance, our benefits that we're giving to our workers. Those increases, such as in our police, which has gone to the salaries of those at the top versus those that are on the ground. And so, no, I don't think our tourism money is being invested in the right places, because most of our money, I won't say none, let's not generalize, but most of our money is not being directed in the places that are so desperately needed, such as our environment, or such as our public housing communities, or such as even our youth and education for after school programs or mentorships or internships in our community centers. I mean, these are things that we could be directing our monies towards, but instead we've allowed for developers to come in and build up, cut down trees, and give them the access to decide what goes on that land. But I'm going to be doing my absolute best to be taking what we can back after those contracts, and also setting some really straight and strict ground rules as to when and how we give our money, and what we benefit from that, our land, and what we benefit from that.
What is the poverty rate in Annapolis?
Very good question. It's
roughly,
actually,
even if you're not, I mean, not down to the individual, but what is roughly the percentage of the population? In fact, I didn't even ask you what the population of Annapolis is, but that set, whatever that number is, which I know you can give me, do you know what the poverty rate is in the city?
well, I know that the population, which we used to say was about 45,000 or so, but now it's about 39,000 people in the city. And I do want to make sure that I get that exact poverty rate for you, and that because I know that our population is about 39,000 people. Our poverty rate is actually, I knew it was about 11% is our poverty rate. And so I was going to say it's not as high as people make it, but that's high to me. I think that a poverty rate of 11%.
Well, if you're the one that's struggling,
yeah,
if you're the one that's struggling for food or cannot get the kids to school, that you're that desperate, or that the school meals are the only meals that they're getting, or providing well, I mean, anything. Well, you mentioned transportation before, which I think is a very underappreciated and under focused on part of any family budget is transportation. You can't work if you can't get there. And I would assume Annapolis probably doesn't have a terribly, terribly deep and developed public transportation system. Very few cities in this country do, sadly, whereas you can jump on a train in in Edinburgh, Scotland, and not get off till Moscow. We don't do such things here, heaven forbid, because it might, affect gas profits or something like that. But if you're desperate enough, I suppose it doesn't matter if you're if the poverty rate is 11% or 21% or 1%. If you're in it, you're in it.
Exactly. And I think that also leads to with the divides that we have in this city. You know, when you're talking about a city that has 50% of white persons, and now Hispanic being 22 or so percent, and black persons being about 21 or so percent, that right there is a clear definite. We have a diverse population when you combine us all together, but the white persons are still most of the population here in this city, and those are not, most of those persons definitely are with that median income of our city. And so we can't afford to live here with about an $80,000+ median income in our city. We can't afford to live here. I don't make that much money every year. I don't see that. I know many of the people I know don't see that $80,000+ median income. And so it's coming from somewhere. And I know it's coming from those that got most of that money in their pockets. And most of that money in their pockets is not usually in the ward of 3. Well, we have some people that got some money, but we don't have I know them, but we don't have as much as those who are living in those wealthy homes near the water, or have those boats at our yacht clubs or what have you. I mean, those are it's very a generational divide. There's definitely a generation, but it's also a financial poverty. It's a divide there when it comes to those issues as well. So.
Vincent, what would you characterize, especially since you do have a bit of a different perspective as you're in government already? What would you say are the racial, not the racial makeup, what is the racial tone of Annapolis? Are these different populations getting on? Is there tension? Is the economic, if there is tension, is it economically driven? Is it racially driven? What is the tone? What does the air feel like in Annapolis, in your estimation?
Well, it is really hard to generalize, right? I mean, I lived in Anne Arundel, which is where Annapolis is, the county, all my life. Lived in Annapolis since 2003. I was pretty much like, oh, things are great here. I mean, if you went to Annapolis Senior High School, talk about diversity. I mean, it was the greatest of wealth, the greatest of poverty, but all the kids got along, and we all hung out together or whatever. You didn't notice the differences as much. But I remember even for me one day, the bus route changed, right? Our bus driver said, I'm going to take the rich kids home first today. It was the first time I had ever noticed a drastic difference in how I live versus the kids that I did, right? And we drove into their neighborhoods. They lived on the waters. The houses were huge. I'm thinking these people live in many mansions. Like, this is how it looked to me, right? I don't know that, and I don't want to speak for all Black people, right? I don't know that the tension exists because we're like, oh, white people have more than us. But I think there is this thought that why don't we have access to more, right? I think oftentimes people assume we want some sort of a handout or something given to us, and that's not the case. We just want the opportunity to be able to have as much equal to as anyone else. So, and especially for outsiders, I mean, I've had people who aren't native to Anne Arundel or Annapolis who are Black and just describe the total different mentality that people have here. I don't think people expect much here, which is sad. So when you see Keanuu come in and he talks about,
is it a complacency of history that after 50 years since Nixon and 40 years of Reaganism and having 83% of all the new wealth created since 1980 go to the top 1%, 100% of all the new wealth created since the year 2000 go to the top 1%, and have the bottom 99% be stripped of $1 trillion in wealth since the year 2000. No more is it enough that all the new money goes to the top. We're now going to suck it from you. Is that if there is tension, and I guess I am asking general questions. I understand you're not.
Yeah, it's
You know,
tough.
we haven't anointed you king of black folk in Annapolis.
Yeah.
You're not charged with speaking for all of them, but you live there. You walk the streets. You shop the shops. You know, you lay your head there at night. I hope there's zero tension there because we are one community. We are one country. We are not a group of rugged individuals. We are one country. If there is any tension, if there is a, you know, every municipality has its own characteristics. Even there's 8.5 million people in New York City. But there are natural tensions between Manhattan and Brooklyn, because when everybody thinks of New York City, they think of Manhattan, even though there are 4 other boroughs. And so there's a natural bit of that. And there's a little bit of a weird tension between all of the outlying districts. The New York metropolitan area encompasses about 44 million people. But 8.5 to 9 million of them are in the city. And actually, that's probably way down since the onset of the pandemic. Some of them left and never went back. And there is that bit of like, you know, one of the great arguments that I love when Republicans will argue against the minimum wage, but they will argue for the dignity of work. So we think you deserve the dignity of work, but to hell if we're going to pay you for it. So do we just do that out of the kindness of our hearts? And that tension then builds, not necessarily because that particular Republican is white, black, or Hispanic, or I am white, black, or Hispanic, but because you want me to serve you and for nothing. But yet you can choose the best schools. You can shop at Whole Foods. I'm going to Dollar General. And why am I worth less than you? The difference between me, who is damn near translucent, you can just about see through me. I have so little color. I mean, there you go, kids. And this is after summer. It's about as good as it's going to get. The only difference between me and the two of you, and I imagine Kristen will be on the screen at some point, you have more melanin in your skin. Race is not even a scientific, it's a social construct. It's a political construct. You simply have more melanin in your skin. Physiologically, we are one human species, one existing on the planet at this time, one. You simply have a bit more of a certain chemical in your skin than me. And I think we tend to sometimes think that because of that, you want, and it's interesting that you mentioned we don't want a handout. You just want this list of stuff. Yeah, do you know what list of stuff that you want? I'm going to be stupidly arrogant. I'm going to tell you: a safe neighborhood, a safe home, a good school, a car if you need it so you can get to work, and maybe you'd like to be able to see and afford a doctor and afford your groceries, and maybe even the wild audacity to think that you might take a holiday once a year. Oh, guess what? I want the same thing. I just have a hell of a lot more light skin than you, but we all want the same thing. We do. We all want the same things. Is Annapolis constructed in that fashion, that all these disparate communities can look at each other and say, I don't care what you look at. I just want the same thing as you. Let's work on it together. Or is there a genuine divide? No, you can't have that because you don't look like me. Tell me about Annapolis. Tell me about the people. Whoever wants it.
I still think that's incredibly hard to answer, right? I mean, obviously in any battle, and the battle for equity is where we're at, there's going to be allies and there's going to be dissenters. I think really the people who don't want people to have access to those things don't think they're doing anything bad on the whole. We're not talking about outright KKK members, racist people. When we say we want more green spaces and we say let's take this part make it a green space, and so that everyone can enjoy it, you're going to have people who say, "Not in my backyard," right? You hear that all the time.
Mhm.
And really, they don't even realize that what they're saying is rooted in racism. I don't want criminals coming to my neighborhood. Well, who are you thinking are criminals? Who's not in your neighborhood, and who are these people who will be coming and committing crimes? And when you start to break it down like that, sometimes they see the error in their way of thinking, and sometimes they double down on it. So uh, again, it's really tough for me personally to make generalizations. I mean, especially working in county government now, I have seen the ugliness of, racism more than I ever have as just a citizen. I mean, people have made comments and said things to me that are clearly racist, but I can't be like, "Oh, gotcha," because it's not quite racist enough.
I might put that in the Hall of Fame. In the Hall of Fame of comments. I'm not gonna. What you said is kind of racist, but I'm not gonna jump on you because it's not racist.
It's not quite
enough.
racist enough.
It's not gonna. I might just have to put that in the Hall of Fame of comments that we put on this. I should make a plaque or something
Make a
up here.
clip.
It's August 22, 2021, Vincent Moulden. It's not quite racist enough. Not quite. Close.
Yeah.
Not quite. 6 p.m. Eastern time. We are an hour in, entering our second hour. This is the Kennedy Effect, and we are live for the 22nd of August, 2021. Wherever you might be on Facebook, the 90 plus places we have shared the program to this week, you can stay right where you are. I would say sort of patronize those groups, but they're not exactly selling things. But if you're a member of those groups and that's the place that you feel most comfortable taking in the program, then please, by all means, stay there, listen, watch, and enjoy. However, if you would like to interact with us on the program, the easiest way to do it is to come to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. That Other Side of Information. That is the home group page for all things the Kennedy Effect. And that page, of course, like you know how Facebook works, folks, it never shuts down. We're there 24/7 posting articles throughout the week, not just about politics too. There was a lot of environmental issues and articles posted this week. Amazon forest deforestation, the wildfires burning not just in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, but also across Turkey and Greece. There's a really breathtaking photo of a fire as seen through the Parthenon, which is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking to think. Dead ocean areas off of Australia, New Zealand, and in the Caribbean, an unreported and uncleaned up oil spill off the coast of Africa. You can always go to That Other Side of Information, not just to take in this program, but to see about the news, issues, and policies points that we post all during the week. There's a lot of P's in there. Thank God I have a good microphone for all that. There's a lot of P's in there. To our friends at hot101.net, super simple. Go to the main website, the main homepage, which is hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store if you have an Android, and the TuneIn Radio app, and Alexa. You can tell Alexa to play hot101.net to our family and friends and sisters and brothers through TCP. The Cultured Professional, thank you for allowing us onto your screens and your speakers and your devices. Yet again, this week, we have a live program next week, and then we take a break for Labor Day. But for right now, we continue with Vincent Moulden, who wears so many hats for Keanuu that Keanuu literally could not dress himself in the morning without Vincent or eat his oatmeal. And of course, the candidate himself, Keanuu Smith Brown, for the City Council of Annapolis, Maryland. And let me just say, for those of you who might be thinking, well, that's a bit of a narrow geographical area for you to take on, considering that this program does literally go around the globe. We have listeners in New Zealand, Australia, dotted a little bit throughout the Western European continent, South America, Central America, and Canada. Well, because the issues that affect, you heard me say this last week when we talked about local elections last week, the issues that are affecting Annapolis are not unique or lone to Annapolis. There are different ethnic groups of people. There are different economic classes. There are tourist destinations throughout the country and throughout the world that are struggling since the onset of COVID. There are wealth gaps and pay gaps and gender gaps, educational issues, and so on. So we might be talking about one particular city and one particular state of 50 in one nation out of 200 something on Earth. I think I think the UN officially recognizes 220 something countries. I will have to Google that really quick while the other gentlemen are talking and make sure I'm right about that. But these issues are not unique and not lone and not solitary to Annapolis. We are a country, we are a nation, and we are one world community. And when a good chunk of the globe is literally on fire and other large sections of it are dead of life, we have to then come to the realization that we are in fact one global community. It's imperative, at the end, my goofy sort of introduction to the program every week, that it's planet Earth. It's the only one we have. We are not even within a century of taking this population anywhere different other than the ball of rock that we are on, the third rock from the sun in this Terran solar system. So these issues might be hyper local to you. I don't live in Annapolis, Maryland. Why do I care about this? Because you're facing the same thing, I guarantee you. Just because the police cars don't say Annapolis on it, they might say Des Moines or Boise or San Diego or Christchurch, New Zealand. You have the same issues. These are the same. We are one human family. So that's what we are discussing with our guests here tonight. So Keanuu, let's break into sort of the depth of it. We know about you. We know about Vincent. We know why you got involved in this. We know kind of how you see your city, not just as a candidate, but really as a resident, someone who grew up there. So as you have been campaigning, I guess, normally I would kind of try to do this in some sort of progression as to, how has it been being a candidate and all that stuff. Maybe we'll save that actually for a little bit. Let's get into it. What are the, I advise every candidate to have at least 3 to 5 things, but you tell me as many as you wish. What are the big issues when you are on the streets, pounding the pavement, shaking hands, cutting ribbons, and kissing babies, as it were, the traditional old time politicking stuff, when you go to the farmer's market or the youth center or wherever it is that you go to speak, what are you hearing? Because part of being a candidate is listening. It's a lot of listening. It's a lot of talking, but it's a lot of listening. So tell me what you're hearing. What are people telling you?
Yes, they tell me a lot, honestly. It seems like everyone's in my ear, whether you are a resident, constituent, or even outside of that, in the city of Annapolis. There are so many issues that people are facing, but I think many of the ones that I have taken a lot of focus to are all regarding our families, our finances, and future, which is really why in the beginning, when we formalized this campaign and team, we had the message of families, finances, and future, because we have to talk about our youth and our children and our families, our homes, inside of the homes, because a lot of the issues that they're thinking about is affordable housing. They're talking about a taxation. So that's when finances can even come in. We're talking about property taxes, specifically with taxation, because that's how we're getting most of our monies, as I mentioned in the beginning. You talk about our environment, a lack of green space and recreational spaces, lots of pollution.
How does a town or city, I should say city, I apologize, it's city, formerly a city. How does a city so integrated with where the water and the coastline is so integral to what you are, your history, good and bad, but Annapolis probably wouldn't be where it is. One of the things I studied when I went to school for history was the etymology of towns and cities. Why did Pittsburgh grow where it grew? Well, it had the 3 rivers. Why did Philadelphia grow where it grew? It had the bay. Why does a place like Des Moines, Iowa grow where it grows? which is fundamentally different from Annapolis. So we know Annapolis. I keep picking on Des Moines today for some reason. Maybe I should pick something like Bismarck, North Dakota, or something like that. But why? But again, there's a river that runs through there too. Water is essential for life. We all know that. Very, very simple concept. But with a city so enamored with and so integrated with its coastline and nature, how could you possibly have a lack of green space or a lack of environmental awareness in a place like Annapolis? It seems very anathema to what makes Annapolis Annapolis.
How can we in the capital of the state not be leading with green energy or renewable energy, and making sure that developers are not owning most of our property, which we do have here in the city? I mentioned the name Hyatt earlier and that we would come back, and I think this is the perfect time. There's no reason that our city should be selling off of its land to just make profit for the short term, but long-term losing profit, because now that land for 10 plus years in a contract is given to a family who owns most of our land, who's been leasing it out for decades. And so I would say that's one of the main reasons why you're finding a lot of our environmental projects, as well as any types of changes in regards to investing into clean energy, have not been taken a heed of. You know, you have the legislators, city council members, many of them who may even claim and tout that they're environmentalists, but they don't take a stronger lead with fighting against these developers. And so that's something that I'm going to do from day one. I'm going to figure out a way to get our lands back, to get our land.
When we talk about development, are we talking about gentrification?
All of it. I'm talking about any development. So I believe in development as that creates just advancements for our economy and for our citizens, for our residents, for all of us. I know that we need to build or to refurbish, which I really care more about is the refurbishing of things instead of just cutting and building up. So anytime that a development would come across my eyes, I would say no, unless it is benefiting our families and our youth and children. It's also going to make sure that our environment is safe and it's protected, and also that our jobs from that project will benefit our residents that are sitting here in our city. And so if it doesn't do any of those things, or not even all of those things, I'm not supporting this development. And you'll find here in the city where a lot of people are coming from outside the city to come down to work here. You have a lot of people who are owning businesses, many of them commercial, who aren't even residents of the city. And I believe in our business. Come on, I believe in a thriving business, a part of my platform. But what I don't believe in is when our residents are not benefiting from it. That there should not ever be a case where our residents are now feeling as if developers have an up on them. And that has been the case for years, where developers have come in and try to own a city. And who would have thought that in the capital of the state, here in our city of Annapolis, that would be the case? But it is. And I'm going to call it out, because we can't get anywhere. And I was actually just talking about this last night. I'm glad you bring it up. I was just talking about this with my partner. We can't get anywhere with the environment and protecting or planting more trees when the land isn't even ours. And a developer would rather pay you with a check and to get some monies in our budget versus planting more trees and cutting back on their project. And that to me is not a way to go. The same accountability that we give to our homeowners who are just wanting to build decks on their backyard is the same accountability and standard that we have to set for developers who are coming in, not only destroying our environment, but also building up places that may not even benefit our residents. And
does that start with the city government itself? Do any city government buildings currently, I know I have a really excellent feeling of what your answer is going to be, but we're doing this partly for effect here. This example to me has to start with government itself. Does the city government or any of its buildings, or the school district or any of its buildings, do you have solar panels on the roof?
Come on.
Do you have a wind turbine anywhere? Is a school drilled down, tapped into geothermal? Doesn't everything that you're discussing, and this does not come from a place of disagreement. I don't think and that's going to shock anybody that I agree with you 100%. I don't think anybody's going to, fall off their chair when they hear that. But does this not have to start? Isn't this what leadership is? It has to start somewhere. Government has to show that these things are not only possible, but profitable. because now I don't spend what I spent uh, uh, on electricity. I use a rainwater catch system for toilets or to mop floors with, because it's kind of already rainwater and I'm not going to do much else with it anyway. Or maybe even fill a pool because I'm going to chlorine the crap out of it anyway. Is this part of what you're talking about?
It will start, and prayerfully being elected, it's going to start. We put out actually our first ever plan that we've ever put out, which has been endorsed, of course, by Sunrise Movement, and we're looking to get the endorsement of other environmental organization here in our county. An 8-pillar plan talking about it's revive Annapolis, it's revive, replenish, well, replant, replenish, revive, but it's about reviving Annapolis. And this is an Annapolis City Green Plan, where we are talking about solarizing our city buildings. We just built a new public works building in my ward, and there's no solar panels on it. And when that question was brought up, why there are no solar panels, we're too far into the building of it. I'm still seeing they're not too far into the building of it. The bricks now they're getting a little a lot done, but that wasn't the case when that question.
That's what they call it, retrofitting, because you are never too far into it.
Never. There's always a time where it's just no one is speaking up about it.
Our area here in Pennsylvania, we're very blessed, and I mean that sincerely. So many different folks, and I got to be blunt, it's actually a lot of folks with money, because it's not a cheap thing to do, have saved so many of these wonderful stone farmhouses. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Some of them that go back to before this country was a country. It's not too late for them to put solar panels on. Some of them have built solar farms. I don't even call it a farm. I guess you call it a solar garden, because it's not, it's not exactly 100 acres worth of panels. But some of them do have a wind turbine on. Some of them do have a solar garden of 6, 8, 10 panels on this, next to, or sometimes even on top of a home that goes back to the mid 1700s. So for a brand new city building to not have panels on them and say, oh, well, we're too far into construction. That's why we call it retrofitting, kids. This isn't hard. This isn't rocket science. This is why we call it retrofitting.
And the issue with it too, on top of the solar panels, because we do want to find materials that aren't still destroying the environment. I know when it comes to battery storage, we have to find the best batteries for all that. I just believe too, though, there are other ways to invest in clean energy. We do have a solar panel farm, by the way, one of the largest in the state, I would even say, partnered with the Anne Arundel County, our county government. We have a solar farm, which we only profit in finances, but that solar that's gotten from that solar farm, we don't use that solar energy. And so to me, not only do we need to solarize our buildings, go to LED lighting, and we just bought an entire fleet of cars with our relief monies that were not even electric cars. We're still gas cars, still, and new vehicles. You bought new vehicles.
Not even hybrids, just strict petrol engine, 100% petrol engine.
And these are our large, you talking about the trash truck type style cars. These are not I wouldn't even call it a car, but trucks and cars,
right.
Police department cars. I mean, these are areas where we should be setting the example, and we don't. And so that's something that I'm going to be coming down on and making sure it's called out and that we're changing. How can we hear in a city council meeting from our Department of Transportation, as well as some legislators are saying it's going to cost us too much money to invest in the green buses, so we should still just keep the original buses that we currently have. We're talking about long-term gains. We have to invest in the beginning in order to see any type of long-term gain. That's how businesses are ran. You won't always profit in the first couple of years. So why can't, when it's dealing with the environment and people's lives, why can't we invest there? But we can allow developers to come in and take our lands and destroy our environment. But we can allow for our insurance companies to get over on us and charge us for insurance for our employees in the city. Let
me ask you this, at the risk of maybe getting you in trouble. This might be, Vincent might just turn your camera off on me right now, or he's going to cut the connection right here if I get you in too much trouble. And I may be I know what answer I would give you, given the circumstantial evidence, counselor. Why is the city not making these investments? What interest do the parties in power have to not making these common sense choices on behalf of those they represent?
Well, that's the question that we all wonder. You know, everyone questions government officials, and you know, politicians, if you will. Why aren't you making the change that you told us you would make 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, or even 1 year ago? Why in that meeting didn't you vote in favor of, or stand out and call out something that shouldn't have been moved forward? Why don't you do it? I'm not going to vote for any city budget that does not show investment in our people of communities of color, nor any high investments in our environment, as well as, although we don't own our educational system or have direct oversight over it, because that's what the county government really does that, but we can still work with our education systems and our elementary schools in the ward and outside of the ward into the city overall. We can work with them to provide the resources that our students need in school and out of school. Government can intervene, just like they intervene when it's beneficial to the certain persons who see it as beneficial. And so when you have people of power who are not making the change, and people of power who are lacking the strength and the leadership, you will not see any change, or you will see people who are willing to take their losses just so they don't look as if they're being weak. But in the end of it, they are weak. Why in the city of Annapolis do we have to have a $900,000+ lawsuit against our city for mold infestation in our public housing communities, for lack of air ventilation in our public housing communities, for our kids getting asthma from those issues, from roaches, you talked about mice early, mice in our homes, our public housing communities? Through public-private partnerships, we've allowed for certain commercial agencies to come into our city, even partner with our HACA housing and HUD, of course, at the federal level. Even then, we don't have any say with those properties, because we have given those, such as Wynn Commercial and Annapolis Gardens here in my ward, we've given them the ability to say, oh, I'm gonna kick you out if you ain't pay your rent. No, you can't plant in your yard. No, you can't draw on your sidewalk. No, what? These are basic necessities, or even wants of people. I want my kid to go outside and draw on the dang sidewalk. It's right in front of my home. Why do I have to wash it off after I'm done? The rain will come down. Now, if it's a threatening remarks, or there's anything that's danger driven, anything like that, then of course. But we're talking about people just wanting to live, and they can't even do that in our city. And so I'm the mayor currently, and I don't care. You talking about getting in trouble? That's what this is about: disruption. It's called, we have to step up, because I've been through too much. So for somebody to call out on me, talking about my history and my past, I know I did that. I know I said that. But it's all about the future, moving forward. And in the city, whether it's the back end deals they're getting, or whether it's the ability to go to the fundraisers and the dinners and whatever it may be, or maybe it's just they don't have the right mentality to even make the right decisions. Some people just ain't there. Some people don't believe in a economy that thrives because the middle class and those who are under that actually have a way in. Some people just don't believe it and let it be. But we have to get those persons out of there. They shouldn't be in a position of public service, because public service means best for all of us. And if you're not doing that, then you shouldn't be in that role.
Vincent, let me ask you, as a county, someone who has interactions with the government on different levels, as a part of this campaign within the city and from the county government, let me see if we can step back from this specifically and ask a more existential type question. Do you think that folks in Annapolis, or even throughout your county, truly comprehend how much effect on their day-to-day lives that their city government and county government actually have?
No.
So is part of that
Short answer.
campaign, or this campaign, I shouldn't say that campaign, is part of your current campaign, as part of Keanuu's campaign, as one of the 37 titles that you have in this campaign, is part of this campaign that every campaign should have an element of education to it, whether it is civics education or history education, or of course policy education. Is part of Keanuu's campaign, your campaign, the campaign you're on, is it that education to say, look, folks, you may not really understand or realize, not because you're not smart, but because maybe you just don't think about it, how much on a literally a daily basis your Annapolis city government has on you or with you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, I mean, my role in county, sorry, did I break up again?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. My role in the county executive's office is community engagement and constituent services. So when I came on, a lot of what we did, we have like our general development plan, which literally maps out land use, our intention for the use of land in the county for the next 20 years. And luckily, we have leadership talk about having proper leadership. We have leadership in place who wanted to get diverse opinions. It is important to the leadership we have in place now to hear from people who historically have not been a part of government interactions. And while the intention is great, and while we're all charged with that, it's hard, right? Because like you're saying, people don't realize how much government plays a role in their day-to-day lives at the local level, right? I think people get the presidential federal level, they get it's important, and that's because there's billions of dollars put into that education every 4 years, right? But on the local level, people don't understand. If you don't like the way your road is maintained, that's the city government. If you have a problem with how trash collection is done, that's city, county government, that's local government. That's not, President Biden's not going to fix that for you. So, I mean, and I think, me coming on to the county executive and even working with Keanuu, a lot of the times we would hear people not know who their alderman or older woman even is, right? Or what they do. So Keanuu and I have had conversations throughout this process about, yes, during the campaign, it's about educating people, getting them to understand what local government does. But even after he wins, I'm claiming that triumph, right? Not even victory, a triumph. After he wins, how important it's going to be for him to be transparent and to include people in the process. And understanding that it is going to take this is how it works. Because historically, there's a large group of people who just haven't even thought to call upon their elected officials to do anything for them, right? So
having Annapolis be the seat of Maryland state government
and county
is that divide, is that disconnect even greater? So what do I mean by that? You have, if Annapolis is anything like Harrisburg here in Pennsylvania, when you stand on the Capitol steps in Pennsylvania, you're one of the largest Capitol buildings in the country with the largest standing sitting, continuous legislature, paid legislature, by the way, 250 members. And you stand on the Capitol steps and you look right across the street, just that much ironically, to the left is something called the Commonwealth Foundation. Commonwealth Foundation is the Koch network. That's their Pennsylvania branch, the Commonwealth Foundation. That said, Annapolis is the seat of state government. Is that economic divide even greater in a place like, or even more evident, maybe as that's a better word for it, in a place like Annapolis, because it's filled with lobbyists, it's filled with whatever the Maryland equivalent of the Commonwealth Foundation is. And by the way, the Kochs have offices in all 50 state capitals and most major cities on top of that. So you have one there in Annapolis. I don't know what it's called, but you have one. So you have a division of the American Heritage Foundation and all that fun stuff, all that whole, Federalist Society and all that. There's a state branch of it that the Kochs are funding. Having the state legislators there, the governor there, the lobbyists, all the unions, the interest groups, et cetera, is that divide sometimes, or that a disconnect from the Vincents and the Keanus on the street to that particular tier of profession, shall we say? Is it even greater? Vincent, do you think?
I guess I still don't quite understand your question. I'm sorry. So you're saying, like, for the average citizen,
So if you're an average citizen, you're walking around the state government complex and you just see, scores of predominantly white men in suits.
mhm.
Are you just kind of thinking to yourself, they don't know anything about me?
Oh,
They
okay,
don't
yeah, well,
care
yeah,
about me.
absolutely.
But even worse, why do I care about them? But isn't that exactly what we have to do?
Yeah, I mean, coming into my particular position, right? I came in starry-eyed, right? Like, oh, this is what I'm going to come in and do, and I'm going to be able to do this. And I still have some of that naivete, I think, and that's a good thing, right? It gives you hope, it gives you passion. And there are walls, right? There are people who are, like I said earlier, who are challenging to you, and they don't even realize it in what ways, right? So yeah, I think that when you hit those walls, and when you come as far as I have, or as far as Keanu has, you break through, right? You find a way to break through because, like Keanu was saying, you've been through enough where you don't let something like that stop you, right? Yes, these people have had a different life experience than I do, and so maybe they don't understand what it takes to even wake up in the morning, put on that suit, come into the same building as you, and sit across a table from you. I mean, I'm sitting across the table from people with like PhDs and who have worked in government for 16 years. And, I've only been in it for 18 months. I didn't even go to college, right? So a lot of that stuff can be intimidating, but you have to find a way to break through. You have to find that reason to care. And like you're saying, this is why you have a seat at the table, to bring that perspective. So while I think, yeah, the divide is there, it can be bridged, but it takes effort.
6:30 Eastern Time, halfway through our second hour. This is the Kennedy Effect live for the 22nd of August, 2021. Keanu Smith Brown and Vincent Moulden are our guests. That other side of information is the home group Facebook page. Come on over, give us a question, comment, yell, shout, stand, scream, clap, do whatever within reason. Let us know that you're there. Hot101.net is the address for the main website on your tablets, your laptops, your phones, and of course, now your smart speakers. You can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. You can get hot101.net on the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn radio app. If you have that, just go to the search bar. TCP, the culture professional, thank you for being here as always. Well, I should say, when I say always, I mean like the last 6 weeks, but seems like always to me. We've always fit in, haven't we? And then you can email us, thatarethekennedy@gmail.com. Tweet me at thatkennedytalk. And if you are watching your screens live, kids, the phone number is open. I will walk you through this again. Since the last time we tried to take open calls, everything went just haywire on us. Very simple little piece of software called Google Voice. We can take one phone call at a time. You are welcome to give us a call and the world will hear you. No pressure, just the world. Nothing too much to worry about. We're just having a chat here, folks. 267-227-9189 is our phone number. If you are on hot101.net, you will see that phone number scrolling across whatever device you might be listening to us on, because I'm sending it to you through all this fancy technology here in what used to be a bedroom, which is now a studio full of computer equipment and more wires than you could possibly imagine, because I've done a very poor job of cleaning up my connecting wires. Really looks like somebody threw up spaghetti all over this place. It's just, there's wires everywhere. It's all I can say. But for now, he knocked on wood. Everything is working. So give us a ring if you wish. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Keanu, what is the difference between activism and politics?
Well,
Because while I believe that that both need each other, and that political change can be spurred, shall we say, by activism, they are different things, and you are now doing both. So tell me what the difference is, you think, between the two.
well, when I think about activism, I'll start with activism. We can just go to the basic of what we know to be activism, which is we're really being active for or against something, usually that is a change that we believe in, or that we want to see in our community take place. Being an activist, someone who calls out things, who stands out and says, hey, we need to take a look at this. An activist or activism being that you're not necessarily doing the change or making the change always, but you're a part of the process for us to get to the change. Where politics comes in, now that is just, oh my God, that's a whole course. But when politics come in, that is definitely people call it a game, only because it is science, and usually science takes different forms or different pieces and brings them together. You have to incorporate all these different styles and strategies into one in order to come out with your result and your political, whether it's a race or a campaign that you have on an issue or an actual running for office. And so when you say that campaign, prayerfully, this will be that campaign that made the difference or the change in the city, speaking into existence earlier. I know you mentioned that. But I'd say politics is really where that change does happen, because we're at the table making the decisions, taking the feedback from our activists and our community leaders to apply it into policy, and then to pass it through and see what that change is like when it's gone through and enforced by whatever agency, organization, personnel that is requiring it to be enforced from.
The perhaps overly simplistic example that I use, and I believe that this has happened to activism coming from all ends of the political spectrum, because we know the right wing wants to burn it all down. They rarely believe in government itself, except that they love it so much they want to control it to the detriment of all the rest and under the control of all the rest. But that's probably a different topic, a different program as well. But it seems to me, and the allegory that I've used is the difference between activism and politics is the activists seem to want to burn everything down. But when you burn the house down, all you're left with is a pile of rubble and nowhere to live.
Mm-hmm.
It's the politicians who fix the house.
Mm.
And that house might not be perfect, but they fix the house we have to keep a roof over our heads. So the activists might point to the leaky roof, but it's the politicians that are going to fix the roof.
Oh my God. You just said something that really, I gave this analogy maybe a month or plus or so ago. And I said, because someone was talking about change agents, how will you be a change agent in government, or what difference will you make? And I said, it's similar. And they weren't saying a negative way or anything. It wasn't in opposition or anything. It was just really teasing out why me, or why a person who's a progressive leader, a community activist and democratic visionary, why would I be in that place? And so I shared with them, change does happen in the same way as when you have two people living together, for example. I can be, let's say, Democrat, Republican, or just two people just living together. And so you have the one person had the home a certain way. I just moved in. And when I move in, I'm like, maybe the bathroom, we should change the shower curtain. Let me change the shower curtain. So when I go into the bathroom, I start to feel, ooh, this is my bathroom now. I'll go to the kitchen. I don't really like the way this looks. Let me get different pots and pans and plate sets and things like that. Let me go to the living room, get another a couch set, or let me get another table or what have you. when you start to change little bits and pieces within that home will become me. The last thing I have to do is just sign over that deed or whatever is to mortgage payments. I'll take control of it, but the house is really mine. All you see inside of here, it's all mine. And so our goal, when we get into the system, you know, you have many people want to get into the system and change it, make it this, make it that. But when you really get into there and you make those many or even mass changes, at the end of it all, we do pray that the entire overview of it all that change that we made will then make it what we needed it to be, for the long run, the long haul. So I like how you mentioned that about the home, because it just reminded me of when I shared that kind of similar analogy with someone about how it doesn't matter whether, you know, it may not be we want it right now. We can always get it there. We've done it before.
And what do you see as you've been campaigning? Is it when you give this hopeful message, this we can do this kind of message? I mean, you know, there's so many standard campaign lines, right? Well, this is for the children. This is just for the children. This is for, I love my family and I love this country. And are you getting, I mean, every candidate gets some, but I guess my question's a tad more general. Do you find yourself getting a lot of pushback of like, you know, hey, Keanuu, we've all been told this before.
Yeah.
You're going to change things. You're going to make my life better. So on and so on. You're just a different looking face.
Mm.
Have you gotten that kind, or have you gotten a really good response of like, no, you know what? This guy can do this. He can't. I believe this, or at least believe it enough to say, I'm going to take a chance and do something different. What's been the reaction so far, especially in such a highly polarized country as we are now, which I can make a very scholarly and hopefully intelligent argument that we're not far away from shooting on each other. So what has been your reactions so far? What has been the feedback that you've gotten as you've walked, canvassed, again, larger house parties, meetings, etc., throughout the ward and throughout the city? What's the reaction been?
Yes, I mean, we already are shooting at each other, really.
Well, yeah.
But I think in our city, they've been extremely. Now, of course, you have those who are from the jump, just in opposition. They don't believe in anyone else. You know, they like the same old, how government usually works for them. They're liking it because they don't see it really impacting them any different. I'm in my 50s, my 60s, or even my 70s. I'm here and I'm fine with what it is. But even those of that age and even less, you're finding a group of people, because of what you're saying about just the nature of where we are, and people just being fed up with being fed the lies in politics and in government without truly taking a deep dive into the monies. Because when you talk about monies, where that money goes is truly what the priorities are. And so when I'm sharing and educating and talking with our people in the ward, whether you are of youth or whether you are of age, they're saying, actually, we do want something different. That person really been in there a while, and I don't know what that person been doing. I don't even know the person's name. And honestly, you'll see that in government but when you have a city like ours, Annapolis, where everybody can tell a secret and everybody can talk about you behind your back, but they don't know who your city council person is. You don't know what a city council person does, but you can say that this person should have did this and should have did. Like, come on, we have to hold ourselves at a higher standard. And they're finding, you know, when a young Black man who happens to be gay too comes and says that to them that this is where we need to be. This is what I deserves.
Wait, you're a Black man? Who have I been talking to? I'm being a goof for no good reason whatsoever. I'm just being stupid for no good reason. Vincent, let me ask you a question. Let me break one of the traditional campaign rules. I happen to do it every program that I have a candidate here. You know, one of the real foundational tenets of campaigning is you don't talk about your opposition, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who is Keanuu's opposition? Who are you running against? Tell me about your opponent. And I've done a very poor job of laying out the calendar of this. By the way, folks, Maryland has not even had its primary yet. We're talking about Keanu's running in a primary.
30 days.
And it's all today is August 22nd. He's not even had a primary yet. I thought Jersey had some weird freaking calendars. Well, we do. I mean, Jersey does have some odd bits, but you guys haven't even had your Democratic primary yet, so we can get to that. But Vincent, let's break some rules. Who is the incumbent opposition to Keanuu in this race? And tell me about him or her and why that person needs to be replaced.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, we also have that cardinal rule, right? We don't speak that person's name. And we never say we're running against, we say we're running for, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to stick to that rule. But what I will say is she is a very lovely, like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Of course, with my interactions, I do interact with her on a professional level. She's nice, she's courteous, she's always respectful. So, you know, that's great.
Yeah, but Vincent, before you finish, I think that's really super important.
Yeah.
Because I do advise candidates that I work with all the time that you can stand on a stage, be it by yourself or with your opposition to your whatever side of you at a different lectern. And that we should be able to say to the crowd of people in front of us, and again, if it's a one-on-one canvassing or you jump up on the soapbox at the farmer's market or whatever that might be, and say, this is a perfectly fine human being standing next to me. She loves her family. She loves her partner, husband, kids, grandkids, if she's old enough. She's not beating puppies in the basement. Let's just be blunt.
Right.
Okay? This is a perfectly good and decent human being. Our differences are professional and political. This person should not be here anymore. She's being there for, depending on the candidate I'm working with, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 12 years, 20, 30 years. It's enough. And we have not progressed. Or the progress that this individual brought to the office all happened like in the first 5 years. And it's been super smooth sailing since. Can't we do that when when Keanuu says, or you advise him to say, she's a lovely human being, but she's wrong about this and that and that. And yes, we can do this. And no, we don't have to take money from that interest so that we don't do these things. Is that I want to say it's enlightened, although sadly it's an all too rare point of view to take, but
yeah, unfortunately
we can say these things, can we not?
Absolutely. I think for me, the first time I became like politically woke, I guess you could say, was Barack Obama's campaign, right? When he was running for president originally, and he was running against John McCain, and John McCain was at some rally or whatever. We all know that classic quote, right? Where the woman said that he is
he's a Muslim.
He's Muslim, he's an extremist, whatever. And John McCain took the mic back and he said, no, he's not. He's a lovely man. He loves his country. I just happen to have some different policies than he does. That for me set the tone of what I would like to see in a political race, right? And I worked on one other race before and things never got ugly, thank God. But even with this, I said to Keanuu, I don't want to run or work for a campaign where things get ugly or nasty. And I was glad we were on the same page when it came to that. So, we are all about respect. Absolutely.
Well, so tell me about, what are the political differences? Why does a Keanuu, or if it wasn't you, Keanuu, if Vincent decided to do it, or Joe decided to do it, or Kieran or Nancy, or again, fill in the blank. Why does this incumbent, why has the time come for a change? What is it? if it's not a specific issue, what is it? Is it just a staleness? Is it just you're not responding? No one knows who you are. We can't find you. What is it? Why is this change necessary, Vincent?
Well, to be honest with you, Jeff, like I don't have a personal problem with her or whatever. I do live in Annapolis. I actually live in Ward 4, like just across the line from Keanuu's Ward 3. And you know, my older person's another story. But when we're out speaking to people, the stories that come across is just ineffective, right? So, I mean, when we were talking earlier just about education, people don't know who she is. They don't know she's their older person. When people, she can lovely and she's great at reciting meetings she's been to. So we know she has the ability to be in the room. We know she has the ability to be in position for change. Yet the residents in the ward are saying they're not seeing those changes. So you know, really, it just comes down to whether someone is effective or not. I think we're beyond just someone saying, I can be in these places, I can be these things, but then what are the results of those things, right? So to me, just from what I've learned of Keanu in my research prior to joining the team of him, and then working with him these last few
Being
months.
drafted to the team, I think, Vincent. Sounds like you got drafted, mate.
Yes, you're right.
It sounds like mom said you're going to get the hell in there and help my boy. Now go to it.
Get to work, and that's what I've done. But Keanu is about you know, impact, actually doing something and bringing about, you know, generational change. So that's the difference to me.
Let me ask you this too, from the staff. Let me ask the staff of the campaign, you, Vincent. Let me ask the staff.
There are others.
The whole staff is right there in that square. But let me ask you from a staff standpoint, from the behind the scenes standpoint, from the structural standpoint. We talked earlier about education, about educating folks on when for help, probably just educating them that there is an election.
Correct.
Because we tend to not think of odd numbered years as election years. It's, oh, well, the congressional cycle is in this one and the presidential's in that one and everybody gets voted on them. Then no, New Jersey's voting for I think its entire legislature and the governor.
Oh, wow.
In this year. Virginia, we know, does the entire House of Delegates and governor in odd years, always the year after the presidential. So as part of that education process, not trying to approach the question from a negative, but to say, not just to tell people that there is an election, but if someone was to rush up to you and say, well, what is Keanu going to do about Medicare for all? The answer is absolutely effing nothing, because he's one city council person in one city, in one state, in 1 out of 50. Is part of the education process what you can't do? And I know that might sound negative, but it is about reality. I mean,
yeah,
he's running for one city council seat out of 7, I think you had said.
Others, but it's 8 total.
There are 8.
Yeah.
8. How do you have an even number of council people?
8 wards, and then you have one more.
What if you have a 4-4
mayor?
Is there what the mayor breaks the ties?
Well,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
they actually have a vote just like every other city council person.
Oh, good Lord. Jeez. Well, you might as well knight people, for Christ's sake. What the hell country are we in? But you have an executive, you have a legislative, and you have
Not quite.
if it was good enough to get us out of the Articles of Confederation, I think it might be good enough for Annapolis, but I guess we can talk about that a different day. But again, Vincent, I'm not trying to approach the question from a negative point of view, but do you sometimes, does somebody bring up an issue to you and say, well, I want Medicare for all, or I need a raise in my Social Security, or I need I'm grasping for examples, but you get where I'm at. Do you have to explain what the expectations are? Well, ma'am, we agree with you.
Yeah.
We would love to see Medicare for all, but however, not exactly the office. We're not exactly running for the position that's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we had to be conscious about. I mean, even like as the comms director, when we're preparing literature or speeches or talking points or whatever, I am hyper focused on making sure that we don't make any promises that we just are not able to keep, right? Beyond what, Keanu can or cannot or whatever, what can an actual city of Annapolis ward person do? And from there is where, obviously we start with what Keanu's passions and what he wants to see change, but then we strictly filter that through what can a Ward 3 older person actually do. So yeah, that is part of the education. But the great thing about Keanu is through his experience, he's worked, at the federal level, at the state level, local level, working with different people in different departments. So even though you're older person, maybe he doesn't have direct influence over the school system or Medicare for all or any of those things, they have influence, right? And that's not to be understated. If someone at the local level doesn't believe in those things, it also kind of stops at that level too. But if you can push up, manage up, as they say, and when you are in those spaces and when you are in those rooms, you can help advocate for them. So I think that's the important thing to also communicate. So to the constituent, you go, okay, I don't have direct influence over that. However, when I'm in the proper spaces, when I'm in those rooms, I will be sure to advocate for you.
267-227-9189 is the phone number. It is open. Geez, please, everybody, don't all call at once. I can barely getting weak at all the calls rolling in. 6:55, almost into our third hour. 267-227-9189. Tell me a little bit about Keanu, about what seems to be, needless to say, a unique election structure in Maryland, that your primary election, unique in the country, although I have to be honest, I don't think it's a terrible thing. I have often gotten on the soapbox that we do not in the United States just need campaign finance reform. We need campaign reform. We need to get dark money out. We need to get large donors out. I get all corporations, because by the way, you're not people, my friends. If you were people, you'd all be in jail for the crimes you have committed. That said, I tend to look at a place like the UK, whose politics I do follow. I am not an expert on UK politics, and nor do I claim to be, but I do watch. If you've never watched Prime Minister's Questions Times, you should do so. Could you imagine some of the presidents we have had, even just in recent memory, standing on the floor of Congress taking questions? It would be either a comedy of errors, or it would be a sad Shakespearean tragedy, no pun intended. That said, the fact that you have such a late primary and such a sprint into the general, I don't think is a bad thing necessarily. It actually controls spending to a point. There's only so much money you can spend in 6 weeks. But tell folks about the uniqueness, relatively speaking, compared nationally, the actual dates, the calendar that you're working on. Maybe that's the best way to say it. The calendar of dates that you're working on right now.
So we work off of 2 dates, and the primary is September 21st.
So let me just stop you right there. We consider, in a presidential cycle, we consider really late primaries to be, again, my home original born and raised home state of New Jersey. The primary is usually around June 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Your primary for your race. Now, is this a Maryland-wide thing, or is this an Annapolis thing?
Annapolis. So
it's an Annapolis thing.
We don't. So our election system is actually apart from the county and state level. We have our own Annapolis Board of Elections. We have a board of, a board of supervisors of elections, but we do have just 2 dates that we focus on outside of the campaign fund report, which is today is the last day that will be included in our fund report for Tuesday, the 24th. And so, of course, we pay attention to all that, but in registration deadline, which was the 16th, last Monday, I believe that was last Monday, the 16th. But September 21st and then November 2nd is the general election. So the primary for us, really make a break. This right here.
Your primary is the 22nd.
21st.
Right? 21st of, so when you wake up on the 22nd, you can maybe drink a cup of coffee, take a shower, and you're off to the races. I mean, there's no
The same
week off. There's no couple of days off to catch your breath. I mean, you're just rolling right out of bed and marching straight on.
because unlike the opponent who's been unopposed both terms that the person has ran, we will be unopposed in the general election. And so similar to that, we will not have a Republican or independent or anyone running in the general. So after the primary, we will be pretty set. But
Okay.
that we don't still engage or encourage our vote. I mean, that's where we do want to set more records, but the focus is solely as right now on that primary so that we can get through it.
Do you see that condensed schedule as a good thing? Is it been a bad thing? Is it just what we do here? So whatever.
Well, part of just talk about another thing that we've released, our first op-ed that we were able to release, the first of any campaign too, I believe, in the Capital Gazette newspaper, which is a very local and historical newspaper here in our city. We released it was the impacts of your vote, but it's really talking about the generational impacts of voting and things of that, and why it's so important to vote, and how, and during this age of COVID, with mailing ballots to all of our voters, which I mentioned earlier, it will be all of our ballots will be mailed now to all registered voters, but only during the primary in our wards, because there's people that are unopposed in their wards for the primary, but in the general they are opposed. So of course they'll do the general election how they do it. But for us, I would say I believe in aggressive approaches to a lot of things, and it's a positive aggressive, not a negative one. I believe in a lot of aggression when it comes to many different pieces of my platform, the platform that I see from the vision given and provided through my life experiences and my conversations and my community building and things like that. And so election reform is needed. And so you talk about ballots and going out and things like that. You had a Republican who wanted to go, who was going against, actually put forth a lawsuit to have all the ballots sent to all of our registered voters. Thank God that was pushed down. I mean, clearly it should have been, because any way that we're expanding voter turnout is important. We have to make sure that everyone who has the opportunity to vote should vote. And if they don't vote, of course, that's their decision. It's on them, but we have to do our best to encourage them. And so when we're mailing ballots to all registered voters, what about those who are unregistered? We could have sent, and I was looking into a way of how this could happen. Of course, maybe not even for this upcoming election, but for just long-term election reform, we could have sent, just like we're sending the registration ballots, the voting ballots to everyone who's registered. How about for the unregistered? We could have sent, maybe just like for same-day voting, a ballot that you can fill out, and all that information would apply for your registration as well as your vote. And so these over 400 unregistered people in my ward could have been able to vote if they got a ballot at their home, including also the registration forms. And so, or maybe from that information included to register them to vote. And although it may be a provisional in the beginning, at the end of it, it will be considered a legitimate ballot, just as if any of the other ones that they have with same day voting or what have you, same day registration on the same day we vote. And so the schedule, it does need to change a little bit. I do believe we need to be more in sync with our county and state in regards to the resources and funding that's provided for our election. And of course, also, with programming, making sure some things emerge from registration on. But I do support the dates that we currently have being on an off year, maybe not during the certain part of the year, but I do like it being in the off year. It's fine by me because, elections just mean that you're doing the work, you're sharing the news, you're what you've done, what you haven't done. It needs to be shown to the American people, the people here who are residents and who want to see change in government, or even just a little bit of change in their lives. Come on, this is just every day. We're all going through something, most of us. And so I do support the dates, the days that we've had it with being in the off year, what have you. But last year we had an election. Our 2020, of course, the presidential, 2021, this is now our election. The next year we have our state election. So we have elections back to back to back, which means that people are awake, they're involved. So that's a positive. It's just, we have to do the work to keep them engaged and not,
Yeah, I wanted to add that people at the county and state level love it, because we do all the work to activate people, and then they can benefit from it.
You know, that's one of
Hey,
the
we do the same thing here. It's become sadly a bit of a cliche in the Commonwealth is that we work, if you're working in politics, you can make, that's why so many people here work in politics, because it quite literally never ends. There's 2 elections every single year because we are in an odd year. There are, I think, 1 or 2 special elections, but generally this is a year for us for county, municipal, and judicial elections because goodness knows we should be electing judges
Mm.
rather than the federal model of the executive appointment. And so I mean that I don't get that one to save my life, and I've lived here a while now and I still don't get it, and I still think it's incorrect. Next year will be the congressional cycle. We will also elect a new governor, 1 new US senator, the lieutenant governor. Then you're in the odds again for more judicial, more county, more municipal, then you're in a presidential. It's primary in general every single year in Pennsylvania. I don't understand it. You have, goodness, we talked about this a bit last week. I think the turnout in the 2019 odd year election was about 25%. I mean, you just have such a small number of folks deciding who's running these municipalities and counties that odd year elections simply should not exist. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. If we moved all of these things into either even year, by the way, be it congressional cycle or presidential cycle, it would increase voter turnout and it would increase voter participation because lots of folks go out to vote for the president. And if that's the same year that you happen to be voting, for the aldermen and council people in Annapolis, well, then that's good for Annapolis. And it's good for the county if you're voting for your exec then. This is not hard to do. We've entered our 3rd and final hour, folks. It's 7:05 Eastern time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. 3rd rock from the sun, this little planet of ours, the only planet we have in this humble, spiral, beautiful Milky Way galaxy. I want to say to you very quickly, since I mentioned the Milky Way galaxy, I think it's going to be probably too cloudy tonight. If you are, it's probably going to be too cloudy tonight if you are in an area where you can see it, or if you are in an area similar to where we are here in Lehigh Valley. But last night gave us a very, I almost said a stellar, which would have been, a stupid pun to make, a really outstanding astronomical alignment of a near full moon, the planet Jupiter and the planet Saturn all in alignment. I suggest if you can get outside tonight to have a gander at those, that you do so. I think there is nothing so humbling and nothing so mentally cleansing. Caller, I need you to mute me in the back. You're killing me. There's nothing so humbling and nothing so mentally cleansing as to look up into the heavens and realize just how small we are. All of these other bodies are in motion. All of the stars are moving, Earth is moving, the moon is moving around us, and we're just one of, oh God, you can't do that. And I can't read around. I hate that. Somebody was kind enough to call, but because I'm listening to myself through his phone, that can't happen. There's nothing so mentally cleansing and humbling as to think that we're all in motion. All of these things are in motion. There are as many stars in this one galaxy as there are grains of sand on every beach on Earth. There are as many galaxies in the universe as there are grains of sand on every beach on this planet. And upwards of 70% of those stars have planetary systems around them. We are one tiny, 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 tiny thing in this entire universe. And when you look up, no matter how bad of a day that you're having, no matter how stressed it might be, or sometimes how good it might be, or how bored you might be, whatever it is, if you sometimes just walk outside. I happen to use an app, and they're not paying me, God knows, because I'd read the ad a lot more if they were paying me. But I happen to use an app called Sky Guide, and you tap on the compass, it finds you, and you hold it up, and it tells you what you are looking at, what constellations, what planets, what stars. It'll even show you where the International Space Station is, flying across certain satellites, and so on and so on. It's really, I find it to be very mentally cleansing, if you will, to go out and look up and see this very bright orb and think to yourself, that's another planet, a planet inside our own solar system with 20 plus, no, Jupiter actually I think has almost 40 something moons around it. The second biggest thing in our solar system next to the sun, a planetary body that could fit 1,400 planet Earths in it. And it's just moving around the sun the same way we are. And Saturn's right next to it. You see the moon right there. It's all very, I just find it very cleansing. And I think it's very, it reminds us that we are just one, small doesn't even really cover it. Super tiny speck in what is just the tiniest speck of time in the galactic calendar of 14.2 billion-ish years. But so whoever it was that called earlier, I think it might have been Randall. You're welcome to call us back, but you have to mute us on the other end. We cannot have a conversation that way. I cannot hear myself through your phone because then I don't know what it's coming from. It gets extremely disorienting and confusing, and it is brutal to listen to if you're in the listening audience. So if that was you, Randall, I appreciate that you called. You are always welcome to call us. Callers, any caller is always welcome here. We just ask you, please. If you're calling from one device while you're watching and listening from another, then you have to turn the sound down on the other device. It just reverberates through. It's a technical thing. It's not even a very advanced technical thing. That's a thing from radio going way back to vacuum tubes. You just can't be listening to it. Once you make the call and I connect with you, listen to us through the phone. It has to go that way. And I think that's Randall right there. Randall.
Yeah, I apologize, Jeff. It is Randall. I apologize.
Randall, I'm coming there. I'm going to find you. I'm going to mute that device.
There's a lot of people that want to find me, but I've been in COVID detention for over a year and a half. So you're welcome to find me.
Well, Randall, thank you for calling the program. To Vincent and Keanuu, Randall is a loyal listener. He is, and we are thrilled to have him. He is a frequent caller, and he's probably our only frequent caller. So, Randall, ask your question and/or comment to our guests. You get to listen to me talk all the time. Talk to the guests, ask your question, and let's let them have at it.
I found this very interesting. That Annapolis has this system of elections. Jeff was explaining before that we're just in a continual election cycle here in PA, and it's a sin if we only get a 20% turnout. That means your school board is going to be elected. That means your county government's going to be elected. That means judges are going to be elected, and well, it's nuts because the minority for local and county governments, whether it's school board or township council or borough council, that they decide who's going to be representing them. Just a little speck of people. And I've been a Democratic committee person here locally for 45 years now.
Only 45 years.
I'm sorry?
Only 45 years.
Yeah, only. and my 69 years old physically is showing it.
It only feels like 450 years, but it's only been 45.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, I live in Delaware County, which is the county directly to the west of Philadelphia County, along the Delaware River. And traditionally, this was one of the prime examples. I went to college in North Carolina, and when I took Poli-Sci 101, my Southern professor brought up this one example of the perfect Republican-controlled machine, and it was Delaware County here where I live. And the Republicans controlled this county for 150 years until we started knocking them everything off in 2017 in our counties and some of our local municipalities. And in 2019, our county council became 100% Democrat. Our county sheriff's a Democrat. Our county controller's Democrat. It's just, you know, and it's all the black backlash of suburban Republican voters that are educated, college educated like myself, that said, no, we don't like Trump. We don't like the Republican Party. And I'm hoping that continues this year for our county candidates and our school board candidates, et cetera, and judges. Because like Jeff said, PA, we elect our judges. The Republicans in Harrisburg here, for example, they have the majority of the House and the Senate. We have a Democratic governor for a year and a half more. They want to break, instead of the Supreme Court being voted statewide for state Supreme Court and appeals courts, et cetera, statewide, they want to change it to regional, thinking that they can take the majority on the Supreme Court, for example, in PA, and you know, the Republicans and the Democrats will be just knocked out of the picture of having a majority.
Randall, what's your
Yes.
question for Keanuu?
My question for Keanuu is, when did you decide to go into politics? And I'm asking this because I decided the first time I ran for my local school board, I was 26 years old. So I'm just, you know, asking what, I mean, you look like a young man. So I don't know, you might be that age. I don't know.
Yes. Well,
But how are you when you definitely knew and got the bug? I'm running for my ward.
Well, if it's specifically I'm running for my ward, then that is in college, I would say, most likely around my first year or two in college, or even when I was in community college, because I went to community college for a year, then transferred a year and a half, and then I transferred to my university for where I finished my undergraduate career in government and public policy. But my first campaign that I've ever worked on, I was actually in middle school. I believe 6th or 7th grade. It was a city council race. That was my first ever campaign, and then mayoral around that time as well. And that was my first campaign being a part of. But of course, I said earlier, when I even knew about an office or government or a leader or what have you, that was in elementary school when I said I wanted to be the president. So those are 3 areas that I can point out. You know, getting involved in my community college was for the first time in student association, student government association. That is where it really became set. Oh, this is for me. This is what I'm staying in. You know, I can make change for my campus and the students here on campus. Oh, wow. That's the power that we have as a student government official. Well, I can only imagine what I can do on a federal level or state level or city level with the work of the people on my side. Like that, I can only imagine. And so that's why I took on that fully.
I did the same thing in college. I went to a small liberal arts college called Warren Wilson outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and they had a unique government. The student assembly had 1/3 of the votes on policy. Policy. We had as many votes as the faculty and staff on policy. So we made many changes in the 4 years I was there in the early 70s. Getting rid of, no open dorms to go into dorm visitations, the list just endless of what we accomplished the 4 years I was there. So I congratulate you on getting the bug early, especially in college.
Thank you.
Randall, thanks for being part of the program again, and thanks for being a loyal listener and viewer. I appreciate it, my friend. And thanks for a great question. We're going to open back up and see if anybody else takes your lead and gives us a ring. All right, my friend, you take care of yourself.
Everybody have a good one. God bless.
Thanks again, my friend.
Thank you, Randall.
Is there I know you did just answer Randall's question. I don't want to beat on it necessarily, but is there I know it's something that you thought about. I ran my first race when I was 5 years old. I ran for my kindergarten home student council representative.
Y'all had that.
And stood in front of my classmates and said, at 5, said, folks, I'm a Kennedy.
Yeah.
This is what we do. We run for office.
Wow.
But we do it because we run to represent those who do not or cannot represent themselves. And we do it for justice. And we stand up for the little guy.
Jeff, you said that at 5.
I did. I did. And we stand up for the little guy. And I lost.
Mm.
And I remember being absolutely devastated, thinking, how could you not vote for the Kennedy? This is what we do. This is what we are. We run and we win races. I mean, it's what we do. But I can't point to one specific thing that pushed me to do that other than my family heritage. And I don't want to beat necessarily on Randall's question, but is there so you went and you studied this, you've been thinking about it since middle school, you worked on a campaign in 7th grade. I get all that. I do get all that. I'm not in any way want to discount any of that. But was there a particular moment that really pushed you over the edge? Was there somebody in the neighborhood that just said, I need help, Keanuu, I don't know what to do? Either because, and maybe it was something silly, they keep throwing my garbage cans all over the street and then I got to clean it all up. Or I got this huge pothole in front of my house. Nobody will, and it's flooding my basement. Nobody will come help me. Or darn it, we need a stop light at that intersection, not just a stop sign. People are getting killed. Or I know, I realize my examples might be a tad silly, but it was there at some point, even if you go to school for this, and I didn't go to school for politics, I just came out of the womb like this. I went for history, but is there one conversation that may have happened at some point and just, I've always thought about this. I've always wanted to do this. I studied this. It's time to jump in, because you do have to say to yourself, I don't think when you're in 7th grade, you're thinking, well, wait, you 7th grade would put you might have actually still had a flip phone back then, but I don't think you're scrolling through a computer and going, 2021 looks good. I'll have a go at that. Something does it. Something finally puts you over and says, I'm doing this and I'm doing it now. This has to happen now. Is there that one seminal moment, or was it just feels like the time's right, let's have a go?
Well, that I know that's a very deep question, because I know exactly what you're asking.
I might not be asking it well, but I think you know what I'm saying.
I do. And I kid you not, I always have looked for that answer. I question myself, why in the heck would you at such a young age want to be or believe that you are the right person to represent other people? Like, what we even gave you that? And so honestly, the answer that I've given myself, because I didn't, how can a kid say they want to be president? They don't even know what the freaking president does. Like, how can you say that? And you know how when we were kids, and maybe you do know this, maybe you don't, but when we're kids, sometimes we just stick with it. So when I chose that, I literally just stuck with it. I didn't know what else I wanted to be. That's all I knew I wanted to be. And I was called the politician and the preacher, or the politician and the pastor in my family. Growing up, literally as a kid, that's what I was called. And so there was nothing else to me besides president or governor. There was nothing else to me. And so I would say it was my life experiences, the situations that I was in. So it was my poverty, being in poverty. It was, my mother struggling to put food on the table. Like, these are things, overcoming in using the healthcare system, for example, having the support of our state through the Medicaid program throughout my entire life, being able to be now cancer free and use that, and being able to tell my personal story, but also learn more about myself through the sharing of it. I've realized it literally was just implanted in me from birth. That's why I said that when you said that, I said, there you are. That was literally what it was.
Tell me about what I find interesting. And again, it's a conversation I have with all the candidates I work with. And I don't say this as any kind of, dig at any of them. I think they just don't kind of think of it sometimes. Tell me about the interesting balance that you have to weather between, no, I'm running to represent you. I work for you. But at the same time, it is about you. Yeah. You're the one running. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance between, no, this isn't about me and it's not about my ego. And hey, listen, you have to have an ego to run for office. You just do. You have to have a self-worth. You have to have a confidence, and you got to have a bit of an ego, because it's that ego that deflects some of the stuff that, like, some of the negative things that are thrown at you, or some of the lies, or some of the, and good. Yeah, I know. Shocker, folks. If you're, I hope you're all sitting down at home. People lie in politics. Surprise, surprise. But you tell me about the balance, or maybe even Vincent can tell me about the balance between, no, this is our campaign. This is a people's campaign. But oh, by the way, it's kind of about me. My name's on the posters, and my name's on the signs, and my name's on the lit, and I'm the one making phone calls. Tell me about that balance.
Well, for me personally, and definitely, Vincent, please share just from your understanding and thoughts. But for me personally, it's natural balance, because when you're going into something with the understanding, the belief, with the faith, with the ideology, with the experience to benefit, yes, yourself, because this is a passion of mine, government and policy, learning through that process and making change through the process, but also for the people, because without them, I wouldn't be there. Or without them, I couldn't continue on that goal or making this vision possible. But it's, yes, a career that I want to be in and plan to be in for the next 20 to 30 years, no more prayerfully than that, at different levels of government, seeing that there's 8 years, 2 terms, maybe even 1 term in one of the positions. But for me, it is a goal and a career that I will plant myself into, but knowing the benefits that come from that power in that office, and it will be reflected when people's lives begin to change. And so I say, it may just be me and my name here, but just like we say in the communities, if I get there, we all get there. If I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna do my best to give what I can to those who do not have, and even those who have just a little bit of something, wants and need a little bit more. And so it's about us always. I mean, there's no other way to put it besides that's just, if that's what you have in your heart, in your soul, your mind, if those are things that you stand on, the principles, the integrity, being committed to the process of helping others, even though, or although it may not always be the easiest to do, and people may not always agree with you, and yes, they will talk about you behind your back and even smile in your face. But
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. The stab in the back usually always comes with a smile. It's one of the very unique things about it.
because we've done, we've been through it all. And so when if you are already at a level when you're not for this petty, this this BS, this manipulation, all that stuff, where you're not for it, where it isn't for the greater good or for the greater cause, for the best of all of us, then why are you even in this field? I mean, you shouldn't even be in this field, because this field calls for, yes, people that have a little bit of an ego to get through and to fight through the mess that politics and the bureaucracy has. And that's why I do need to have the standard of showing up and not giving a dang what somebody said behind me, but knowing that I know what I believe in and know what I stand on, I know what the people would like to see happen. And so when you carry that, you don't worry about nothing else. There's nothing else to worry about.
267-229. No, why did I do that? 26. I'm skipping numbers. He's just throwing numbers out there, kids. Just throwing them, just casting numbers. And they're not even winning lottery numbers. I'm getting my own phone number wrong. 267-227-9189 is what he meant to say. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189, 7:30, entering our final half hour of the program and with our guests. And I will pray that they don't feel that they've been here this long. I hope it's been flying by, and I hope it's been fun. Oh, so he makes a face. That's just when Keanuu makes a face like, get me the hell out of here. Nice. Great support. We thank you for that. He's never coming back, folks. I'm just kidding about that. Of course he's coming back. 267-227-9189, hot101.net, the Apple app, the Google Play Store, the TuneIn Radio app, TCP, the Cultured Professional, the Roku channel, WTCP Global Internet Radio, and TCP on Facebook. And to every group, 90 plus places that we have shared our program this week, thank you for allowing us into your groups, both public and private, onto your pages, giving us a look, giving us a listen. We appreciate every last one of you, every last one. There is no radio program, television program, no piece of media anywhere on earth that can survive without you, and we are certainly no different. We thank you for being here. That other side of information is the home group Facebook page. Come and chat with us. Send us a question or a comment if you wish. It's been a very, very, very quiet chat tonight. You guys do that on occasion, but then at the end, I took a look and I realized, yep, everybody was still there watching like they usually are. But for whatever reason, you are just it's just very quiet tonight. And you heard Randall, who was kind enough to call us earlier. He called and lived to tell about it. It's not a difficult thing. You all can do the same thing. If you can call Tom Hartman, you can call me. I'm telling you that right now. These things are phone communication devices. They're pretty awesome. You dial them and talk to people on the other end. It's really, really extraordinary. We want you to call the program, 267-227-9189, entering our final half hour of the program and our final half hour with our guests. Keanuu, give me another big issue that you are either focused on and or hearing a lot about. Talked about, your big environmental issue. Every candidate usually has 3 to 5 real biggies. Give me another biggie.
Yeah, we talked about the environment. We talked about the youth, of course, in education, and we talked about affordable housing, which I also want to emphasize, food security as well, because that's extremely important. But finances, I know I talked about taxes and things like that, but budget management is extremely important. Parking availability has been one of the largest issues that I've found among our.
And that might sound like a very small thing, but in a tourist town, and we talked earlier in the program about how dependent Annapolis is on tourism, what a big component of your existence. I'm not going to check out a place I can't park. How do I check out a town I can't park in?
Yeah, and this is in the areas where tourism isn't even as as booming. I didn't want to use that word, but as as it is in the downtown area or in the other districts, as they call it, because we're the design district and you have the arts district, but for in the marine, the maritime life district. But you have us in Ward 3, where has such history here, but I'm not only focused on history. You know, I think that it's important to learn from our mistakes or from our lessons, from all the things we've done, etc. But we have to talk about the future. And so allocating our budget is extremely important, as I said, but also policing, public safety, saying that most of that money is going towards our police, 22 million. That is really community policing being the main issue for our residents, not seeing them out in their cars. Most of our police officers, if not even many, are not even residing here in the city of Annapolis. These are issues that we can look at finding a solution for. And so you shouldn't have an excuse from a police chief saying, oh, it's too expensive to live in the city of Annapolis. This is a person from Baltimore saying it's too expensive to live in the city of Annapolis, so I can't find a place to live here in the city. But I say always, then think about someone who, like myself, or think about the mom, like my mom, Tamika, who has the 3 young boys. Think about the other families, 5 kids, or the immigrants, which is also a huge issue in our city. This mentality with, as we know it, with the white and the black community, the black and white community, with now the Hispanic population being targeted and going after and saying, oh, you're taking our homes, or, oh, you're taking our parking with your big trucks. So when I talk about parking, a lot of it comes from those who are having those jobs that deals with housing, building the homes and cleaning and things like that. These are issues that we're finding in the city, even pollution and trash. I know we talked about it earlier, but even beyond pollution and trash, you're finding people feeling as if their water bills, we got water insecurity in this city. Can't even afford my water, or my water is not as clean as it should be. And so when we talk about the air quality and that in the city, we have sometimes that you have places and people who are dealing with some water issues as well. And so I can keep going on and on about the issues because there's many of them.
Well, let me ask you to drill down on a couple of those, and I probably should write more stuff down because I swear I had 3 really good questions. I can now suddenly only think of 2. One national level issue that does very readily and very easily, I find it to be a distraction, or used as a distraction rather than an actual issue. It's something Republicans are really good at, is distractive type issues, is policing and public safety. Democrats were roundly beaten about the head about defunding the police. Rather than me try to get you to agree with me on what I think is probably a position that we already agree on, you tell me your spin on, or your explanation of, your voter educational explanation of, well, what do you mean you want to defund the police? I happen to be, you mentioned police and public safety. I find it very interesting as you go through the etymology of policing in this country, that police, especially municipal police departments and sheriff departments in the South, were born out of slave patrols. But then there was a time in this country where our police and sheriffs were Andy Griffith. They didn't even carry a gun. And then there was a time that they were public safety officers. Then they became police officers. Now they're law enforcement officers. And I don't think that these renamings are accidental. I think they are quite intentional, and we have seen the militarization of the police. You mentioned public safety. You mentioned it unprompted. So it's obviously something that means something to you. Tell me what you think about policing and public safety officers in Annapolis. How do you envision policing and public safety in Annapolis? Either building on something that's working, because I think we always tend to look at the negative, but would you be building on a system that's already working? Would you be fundamentally changing a system that's not working? Tell us about it.
Well, for real, you're thinking about the city of Annapolis. It doesn't even seem as if we have a program or anything that no strategy. They come up with all these plans and these outlays as to how it should look and how it could be, but there's nothing really in place that shows what it will be. when we're continuing to work at these strategies, and those strategies are not being taken on. That's the issue in the city. So I would say there's not really a model that isn't being, it's just nothing clear being done with the platform on public safety. And that's why it's so important to know that the chair of public safety is the opponent as well, because now you're seeing how the lackings thereof with when we were having the protests here in the city and the police chief or the police officer saying, oh yeah, we believe in community policing. Clearly they didn't know community policing was, with the 4% increase in our police budget, most of those going to salaries like I mentioned. And so I see public safety being straying away from violence. So you can't say defund the police to some people, no, but defunding the police just has to be clearly stated as, I'm going to take some of that money that we have going to our police budget and direct it into the right places. I'm all about allocating funds to the right place. That's how you will show and make that difference. And so for our police, most of that money needs to be directed towards community policing programs, police officers staying in the city. We can find out a way, whether it's through a tax cut, or property tax cut, or whether it's through a way of working with our businesses, whatever, or our places that do offer housing, the developers to come in, whether it's working with them. We got to find ways to bring our officers here in the city. That's one of the only ways we're going to get community policing, when people are living in the area that they're representing. That's why you had the patrol programs where people, regular people, and even the officers were just in the cars going around one little block area, you know, going around. And sometimes though, the priority areas are not always shaped to be the right ones. You can't have a police officer always in the Black community, because then you find white communities saying, oh, I don't even see the police officers over here. You can't have the police officers just in the white community, because you're finding those police officers playing favoritism to those communities and ignoring all the true and real issues that are happening in our Black communities. So you do have to, talking about balance earlier, you have to have a balance in our police system where we're prioritizing just people, keeping them safe. Yes, being reactive, but being proactive in the same way, not too much where people feel as if you're overdoing it and you're not giving me my freedoms, or you're taking advantage of certain persons, where you just feel, oh wow, that's my friend. You know, I can be friends with a cop. I can be friends with my police officer because he gets how he talks with me. He understands me. I was in Baltimore City not too long ago, and I'm hearing cops laughing and giggle. And I actually look back and I was like, these are Black cops. And I look back, I'm actually like, if only we had some of the niceness that we see, or some of just the free personalities that we see amongst our cops in all areas, not just in certain areas. And so the city of Annapolis, that $22 million budget, we're prioritizing that to the communities. We're going to make sure that there are hubs that are being used, because we just have now this community hubs and things where we're finding out that much of the community hubs are not even being active in the communities that they're due to serve. You're finding them just chilling in the offices. That's what we're being told. And so how can we be wasting money like that? We're wasting money like that because there's no accountability. We don't have a strategy to get police officers out of their cars and into the communities. We don't have a strategy to get police officers here in the city of Annapolis. We don't have a strategy to stop buffing up our police officers and hiring more police officers. Not to say I don't believe in hiring police officers, by the way, just be clear. But we don't have a strategy to ensure that it's not too much on hiring and more so on keeping people that are connected to our communities here. You know, people with that experience. We don't have a standard of education for our police officers like we do for our teachers. I believe in a standard, and also providing mental health services, working with our health department so that they are mentally prepared to be out there. You say it's coming from as far back as slavery, even Camp Parole, but we had parole officers, the camp in Camp Parole, where we were dictating, holding on to the slave persons in trade. You know how that worked back in the day, training off for one of those in the union versus being on the opposing side. I mean, these are the issues that we're dealing with this city where they're not even up to speed with connecting with the community. They just want to throw hey, let's have an event today and see who comes out and just say what's going on. I can talk about my education, but there's no change being had. People are still feeling unsafe, and overdoses still happen. More shootings taking place with no answer to where those shootings came from. Who did it?
I think one of the ways that you support law enforcement, and Democrats have now been roundly, the right has done a tremendous messaging job. They do a wonderful job with messaging. no matter how much of a lie it is, but they're really good at it. They're lying 90% of the time, but but they're really good at perpetuating whatever the daily lie is. And one of the lies that they perpetuated is that Democrats don't support law enforcement, don't like law and order, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Isn't one of the ways, like when we talk about, I've had several guests that we've talked about veterans affairs. I think one of the best ways that you support veterans is to stop making them.
Come on.
Right? Stop making them.
Yep.
Isn't one of the best ways to support police? You want to say law enforcement, your peacekeepers. We don't call them peacekeepers anymore, by the way. Isn't that funny? Your public safety officers. Isn't one of the best, and maybe not even just the police, but even EMTs and firefighters as well. Isn't one of the best ways to support them to provide them the professionals that they themselves are not? What does that mean? An officer is called to respond to someone who's in a mental distress, who has a legitimate mental illness. Our officers are not mental health counselors. They're just not. It doesn't mean that they're not quality police officers. It doesn't mean that they don't care about that person standing right in front of them who's in that mental crisis. But they're not mental health counselors. The same way that they respond to a domestic abuse, they're not domestic abuse counselors. Fine, if the husband is beating up on the wife, cuff him, get him out. But the wife needs some help. Yeah? So isn't supporting the police, whether it's ride along, and I know that's a bit more controversial, or whether it's that having that professional immediately back at the police hub, headquarters station, whatever you want to call it, say, here, this drug addicted person is exactly that, a drug addicted person. Not a thief, not a murderer, not an arsonist, not a serial, destroyer of property, is addicted, for goodness sake. Here's the room where the addiction counselor is, who can do the assessment and say, I actually don't think, I think he's just stoned and he did something stupid. Or he is genuinely addicted. He doesn't belong in jail. He belongs here at this facility. Isn't that how you really support police? By taking away from them these burdens that they are not trained for and were never really designed to do.
Yes. And that's where the monies come in and the resources. Will you show the example as to how will I support the police? I'm going to make sure that instead of us investing heavily into violent police officers, or by that I mean investing heavily into the materialistic things on the side of the strap,
the armaments, the helmets, the clubs, the shields, the leftover military equipment,
industrial side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that, we are looking into those mental health support services and addiction support services and programs that people believe work, because we as politicians, elected officials, what have you, we like to create things based off just our knowledge, our things, and so we like to do the surveys, we like to throw that out there. But when you're doing the natural everyday work of talking with people and connecting with people, you should already know what's right. I don't need, and I was talking about this with the environment or even with police reform, public safety reform, I don't need another slideshow as to how many overdoses and killings we are having, or as to how horrible we are treating our plant life and our animal life. I don't need another slideshow to tell about that. We have history to tell us about that. We have education and life experience to tell us about that. How about we just find a solution for it based off of what we know and know to be the best way? How about we just enact something that would make a difference? And so that's where I am at, whether it's public safety and police reform and taking charge, or any other avenue that we have in the city.
Let me ask you about history very quick. We do a lot of history because we're going to try to wrap up we're literally going to try to wrap up the program at 8:00. We'll see how that goes. Let me ask you about history. We do a lot of history education on this program. And you mentioned not long ago, I don't think even 10 minutes ago, that, yeah, we can look in our history, we can learn from our history, we can find out what we did wrong. What about what we did right?
Come on.
How much does your historical education and your historical knowledge or just your general curiosity about history? And again, you said it, as a candidate, you can't walk into the front of the room and say, folks, we are marching straight back to the past. It's just not, it doesn't work, right? Candidates are always naturally looking to the future. Here's what we need to do going forward. But how about history and maybe Vincent, as a comms person, you do, I'm sure you do this too. History doesn't just show us what we did wrong, it shows us what we did right. The New Deal worked. The New Deal worked. I also understand the historical context of the New Deal. If you and I, well, we wouldn't be doing it this way, obviously, but if the three of us were having this conversation in 1938, you wouldn't be benefiting from the New Deal the way I would be. It's just the truth of the matter. But let us also remember that Franklin Roosevelt integrated the military. So before we throw the baby out with the bathwater, let's keep a historical context, shall we? So how much of that, whether Vincent or Keanuu, either one of you who wants to answer, I'm thrilled with it. So when we talk about history as a campaign tool, as a method of information, and we do tend to say, well, that didn't work, and that didn't work, and that didn't work. How often do you talk to people about what did work?
Yeah. All the time. Because oftentimes, well, and please answer, I'm going to be brief then. Oftentimes, because we can know what worked based off of how the people who were in those time periods share it. I can speak with our elderly, maybe some Black persons in their 40, 50, it's maybe 60, 70 year olds who can share with me that at a point in time we had Cars Beach where the Black persons can come in the city of Annapolis and they can enjoy themselves, listen to music, dance, all these types of things. But now that's no longer. So that's something, providing something where people can feel comfortable and well and just do what they want to do, have fun, safe. That's a positive thing that happened in history.
And welcome in their own, welcome in their own city.
Come on, in their own, our city of Annapolis. You could have felt welcome back then. Even during that time, there was a place for you to go, even in segregation. Because even during this time, I always say, we're still living in integrated segregation, but still, sometimes segregation does help.
We're in an economic segregation.
I don't want nobody to take that the wrong way. Sometimes being in your specific group or being in the environment that you may thrive the best in, it does help. You to be in a place where you can grow a little bit more, learn a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that we do it in a very negative way, a hostile way, divisive way. That's not what that's not how we should go about segregation.
Vincent, has that been part of this campaign? Not only what history teaches us about what we did wrong, but about what we did right.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quickly, if I can touch on a couple points. One, I wanted to talk about what it means to run a campaign for yourself. I know this was an earlier question versus the people, but I think it's very...
You're running it. I should have talked to you about it. Yeah, I probably should have brought you in there.
Sorry, just really quickly, I just wanted to say it's really easy to strike that balance when you're running an inclusive campaign like Keanuu is, right? We've heard from residents that certain segments of the population have been boxed out of the political experience with the current person in the seat. So naturally, we wanted to make sure those people had a seat at the table at our campaign, whether that means you're of the LGBT community, which is why we had a drag brunch to encourage that community to come out and support, whether it means you're a woman, right? We had our Women's History Month. That was our first fundraiser. Whether you're Hispanic, we had a family day where we encouraged the Hispanic community to come out, let your voice be heard, celebrate with us. Let's look towards the future. So I think when we're talking about ego and balancing and whether, you're doing it for the people, doing it for yourself, it's easier when you want it to be inclusive, when you're looking to be included. And then with that in mind, when we're trying to explain defund the police to the common constituent, we've also had conversations with people, former police in the city of Annapolis, where we went to them and we said, hey, this is what we will look to do once we win the seat. How do you feel about that? What do you need in order to be successful? And one of the most fruitful things I took from the conversation is that our police department is required to fill out so much paperwork The reason they're not sitting in their cars because they're afraid of people. They're not sitting in their cars simply because they don't want to engage. They're sitting in their cars filling out reports, meaningless reports. So it's like, if we can find a way to take that off of the officers, talking about taking away things from them they don't need to be bogged down with, and we could come up with essential reporting, things we actually need that could help free up the officers' time so they can do that community engagement, right? And then lastly, look into the past to look at what we did right and moving towards the future. Again, referencing our Women's History Month event, which was our first fundraising campaign or, event. It was all about women in the city of Annapolis who had great impact, right? And looking towards those women and saying, what went well in Annapolis for you? What's going well in Annapolis for you? How can we take that energy and move it towards tomorrow? We talked about Cars Beach. There's a lot of experience here, and we also talk about marginalized people being historically boxed out. I think understanding that history, like you said, Jeff, this is your city. You belong here. You have historical, meaningful experiences here that make sure, like your lineage, you belong here. So helping people to understand that in a city where sometimes you do feel like you don't belong, yeah, that helps a lot. So that was my
Hey.
wrap up of the last 5 questions.
A kind of secret between you and me. I don't want Vincent to hear this part. I'm thinking Vincent Moulden, Ward 4, in 2023. I'm just saying, or next year, whenever the hell Ward 4. So whatever. I'm just saying.
Whenever we do it.
I'm just saying. The Globe's not listening. We'll just keep Vincent out of it for this part. I'm covering his square because if he can't see me, I can't see him. So I'm thinking a partner there on Ward 4. That said, let me ask you about education, because we did talk earlier in the program about expectations, reasonable expectations. You are not going to cut military spending. You are not going to find a cure for cancer. You are not going to establish Medicare for all. You're running for one council seat, one alderman seat, whatever it is that you call it there. We seem to be using all sorts of terms tonight, so I'm not sure what the technical term is, but one seat out of 8. When it comes to, we tend to conflate in local municipal government schools and our municipal governments. You've referenced education a couple different times. You're not running for school board or school director. So tell me how you feel as a councilman you can have an effect on education, or why it is that you even discuss education when you're not running for it. You don't have direct control over it, which is not to say in any way that it's not important. Obviously, it's important. Public education continues to be the great equalizer. That's why rich people don't want poor kids to have it, because we don't want that equalization. They also don't want to pay for it, but I was going to say it's a whole different topic. It really isn't a different topic, but we don't want poor kids to have education because they might be smart like me. And if they're smart like me, they might make money. We don't want them to make money because that's my money, damn it. So we get all that. But you have mentioned education a lot. You're not running for school board. So why do you talk about education so much, and how do you talk about it with your future constituents, but also say, yeah, but I don't run it. I'm not gonna, tell me about that, why it's important to you and why you talk about it so much, but yet you're not running to control it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say that
I mean, you're in the system, you're teaching, and I'm just, but
charge of that. I mean, that would be something else if I was running for school board and everything. But I think education comes in all forms, and that when I say education, I'm talking about our school system. I'm also talking about everyday education, all of our different livelihoods and what we can learn from one another and what we can share for those who have a college education or degrees, or who don't, who just lived an everyday life and learned from those events. And so for me, when it comes to education for the school system, I will be partnered, as we talked about earlier, with our school board members and advocating for the right resources and the adequate funding to our school system. And so education can be different, especially when we work with our nonprofits for the programs, our school after school programs, or the mentorships, and even working with our state delegates and senator, because they offer scholarships through their funding every year. I know in the House of Delegates, about $39,000, $40,000 or so dollars given to, depending on it changes every year depending on the amount of person in the district or what have you, all those things. But still, that's about the amount that they're given. And so working with them to get scholarships. I was the scholarship manager when I worked in the House of Delegates, and we can give scholarship amounts of 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, 4,000. I mean, well, it depends. I know there's a limit, and that changes as well. But that's another example how we can make an impact in education. You can work with not even just the school board and the count and the state delegation, but I can partner with the governor. I can partner with the county executive, talking about where funding goes to. We have we even in the city of Annapolis have a specific commission on education, so we can see who gets on that commission and who serves on that commission. Partner with our county government and how our educational system should be run, given input from our city residents and saying, okay, this is what we're seeing is not being done for our kids, and that partially was internet access. And so during the time of COVID, it was getting internet access to our kids. And that's a part of education, because how can they get an education if most is on virtual and they can't even get access to the virtual? They claim we have 80%, 90% of internet access and computers in the city of Annapolis, but they're not focused on that 11% poverty rate. Because if you talk about the 11% poverty rate, where many of those people may have kids who are going to public schools, they don't have that access. So I will be able to make a difference when it comes to education, not just from my knowledge, but from partnering with our other government officials and, of course, departments that we have.
267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. One more time, 267-227-9189. Gentlemen, you have been here for 3 hours, which is beyond gracious. And I pray that it did not feel like that. I pride myself on that a lot. I've yet to have a single guest tell me, boy, that was torturous. You know, that 15 minutes felt like 15 years. Usually it's right around now when they go, what? 3 hours of what? Well, 3 hours we've been talking. Oh, what? How long? So hopefully it didn't feel long, but as I, promise that we will let you go, which is the least I can do. It is a Sunday evening. You can go home or you're probably already home, but, make a hot chocolate or have a warm glass of milk and maybe get some rest or a dinner or something. But I want to do what I do traditionally at the end of any time that we have with a guest, not just at the end of any program, but the end of time that we have with any guest. And that is to give you the floor. We'll start with Vincent. Vincent, tell us, please, is there any topic that we did not get to that you really wanted to make sure that we mentioned? Was there a topic we did not get to fully vet out because we took off on, it's usually my fault, took off on another tangent and we talked about something else? Or is there, how do we follow the campaign? How do we find you guys? How do we follow what you're doing? How do we read articles? How do we contact? Let me just give you the floor for that particular set of points there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I think that kind of woven throughout this conversation in the various different ways we've touched on some things that where Keanuu might have limitations in his role as alderman in Ward 3 in the city of Annapolis, right? But if you look at the back there of Keanuu, that's his logo. It says leadership for new Ward 3, right? And that was not just something we wrote or just came up with, right? that has a meaning. So when we're talking about leadership for new Ward 3, we're also talking about redefining what leadership looks like, right? We've heard complaints from residents where they have approached the older person and they've asked a question and they literally went to them and go, that's not my jurisdiction, and walked out of their face, right? That's not the leadership we're looking for, right? Even if it doesn't fall under the realm of Keanuu's purview, as he said, he has connections on the county level, state level, federal level, where he will extend his influence, his office to whatever level. And then specifically with education, I think Keanuu touched on this, that education does not begin and end in the school, right? there are supplementary programs and supplementary resources that the city can provide to children, to parents, parents who might be having difficulties with the school system. They know they can come to Keanuu and he will help guide them through that. Because we also talked about educating people on civics and how government works, right? With Keanuu in office, he's going to inspire a whole new group of people to see themselves in that position. And they're going to wonder, what can an older man do for me? And Keanuu's going to be able to expand probably beyond what the traditional older men could do, right? And finally, to close out, I think the best way to figure out how to contact us, how to stay engaged with us, is to go to the website on the back of Keanuu, ksbward3.com. There you can find links to our social media, our email, and all that good stuff.
I will try to put that in the chat. It's is Ward spelled out? KSB
Yep, Ward is spelled out. KSBward3.com.
You get him slowly drift to the side so I can read that. That's fantastic. Keanuu, I want to give you the same opportunity that Vincent took. What point or issue or that we didn't get to at all, or one that we didn't get to fully vet out because we took a certain turn? And again, how does everybody find you, follow you, keep up with what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera? And when are we scheduling for my public speech on your behalf in the city of Annapolis? Because I don't know if you've noticed, I'm very nervous. I don't talk much, but I will in this on this. Kristen's always tells me to keep going, to go to Annapolis. She said, "I'll think it's beautiful." So she said, if I like Newport, Rhode Island, I will like Annapolis. So I am taking that on good authority. So I will be down to, give a very Kennedy-esque speech for a very small fee, I promise. But again, what did we not cover? What did you want to fully vet out? What did we miss? What did you want to elaborate on? And how do people find you, follow you, keep up with you, and so on?
Sure. Thank you again, Jeff. This is definitely a fun, awesome, amazing, all those adjectives. It was a really enjoyable opportunity and time to chat more and to learn more about each other as well. But I've really, and we always start with the eyes, but I really believe that this is it. This is where I have been called to come to, because I just can't sit back and watch for others who are in these positions of power to do nothing when they have the power to do so. And so for me, knowing how government, based off what I've learned in my education, all those types of learning how government works, learning what government can do, and still needing to learn, because understand this, I have so much more to learn in regards to the government and the process thing, but still knowing what government can do, which is benefit people's lives for the better. That to me is why I'm here, and why I will continue to fight for what is right in our government, and making sure that people see that government is for them. So the people for Keanuu Smith Brown, you can find us on ksbward3.com, which does have, as Vince was sharing, all of the sources that you need to find us, whether it was how to donate. I know we can't say that too much on here, or whether it is joining us and volunteering.
You can tell people where to donate. That's
ksbward.com, or that's so you could donate bit.ly/KSB Ward 3. Those are two spots where you can come and donate to us. But 30 days left, and being a campaign of the people, a united campaign, it's about unity. It's about unity and change, leadership of its vision. It's about focusing on our families, finances, and future. It is about making sure that Annapolis takes reign on being the capital of the state, and using that bully pulpit, as they sometimes call it, depending on where you are, but that bully pulpit to get things done and to direct those monies where they need to go. And I'm going to use my voice and the people's voice. I'm going to build up the people so the people can work on themselves, which means on behalf of themselves, and don't always need me there, or don't always need someone speaking for them. They should be able to do it on their own. And so that's what this is about: building our community, building our people, strengthening our message, and making sure we win. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to talk about the same issue for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, promising the same thing, guaranteeing the same thing. I'm going all in. And if I can go all in and y'all can go all in, we're just going to go all in it together and make it happen. And so that's what I am here for. I'm here not as a puppet, but as a leader, and to make sure that even though I may have those following me or standing by my side, I will too listen and follow where there's needing to be followed, a message that is of true change. And so I thank you again, but I do believe the time has come for that. And I pray that those in Ward 3 do too, so that we can see true representation for all of us in the Ward of 3. My
Well, I
ward.
tell every candidate that I work with, the list of priorities that you have, list of issues that are important to you, the policies that you have developed to solve and address these issues mean nothing if you don't win.
Come on, talk about
And
it.
that's part of the difference between politics and activism. Again, it's burning it down or fixing it. Nothing that you advocate happens if you don't win. So we, of course, hope very much that you win, or we wouldn't have had you here. Although your opponent's welcome to show up here too. There's no one who is not welcome here. I have invited more Republicans than you guys could count, and not a single one of them has come anywhere close, which tells you a lot, because I don't think they're ready to have the discussions, the type of discussions that we all had here tonight. So I hope that they, everybody's welcome here. Everybody is welcome here. Last question before you go. And you did say it a lot, Keanuu, in what you just said to us in your last, your kind of closing response there, but hopefully I won't ruin the spirit of the closing response. But I want to ask you this question, or both of you. Why is this election so important? Why is this the time? Why is it now?
Well, I would say it's now, seeing that 4 years is too long away, and seeing how we know that even in a month time, a week time, a day's time, and a year's time, what can happen in our government and just in our world, in our economy, in people's lives. We know that the difference is that we can have one day being happy-go-lucky, and the very next day a whole pandemic in action. And so we have, and of course that's an exaggeration, it took some time, but we have to realize that the days are ticking. Our environment cannot wait. Our kids and our youth, they cannot wait. Our government needs to step up, stand up for people. And we're not seeing that being done in the way that it needs to be done. And so now is the time, because if now isn't the time, or if we don't do it now, and I know every person may say it's always now the time, oh my God, now's the time. Our city is in the hands of those 8 Democrats, and I'll take one out of there since he is a bro, but 7 or so Democrats who do not clearly believe in transformational change. Because if I did, and I had an overhaul of Democrats in the city council, you would see some change you never thought you could in a city like ours. And so that's why now is the time, because you need people like myself, or people who stand in what they believe, and also on behalf of the people who always stand in that way. You need people like us to make that change, the change agents they call us, or the change makers, or the people that can really shift some things up, shake some things up. And that's
really is the old saying, though, isn't it? If not now, when? And if not us, who?
That's 4 years. I can't wait 4 years. I'm gonna be 29, 30. I don't even know what my life will be like.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's calm down.
Let's tell the guy. Yeah, tell the guy who's 52 that I'm gonna be 29. My life's gonna be over.
I'm here. I got.
Hey, look, Annapolis is on the water, folks.
Huh.
If I don't, I will openly admit I do not know the topography of Annapolis. But here's what I can tell you. Kristen and I live here in the Saucon Valley, in the Lehigh Valley. There are certain, not all, but a lot of the 100-year sea level rise maps that I've seen. Folks, I am a visionary. I can see the future. I just bought oceanfront property. And it's not going to be that way for another 100 years or so, and I won't live to see it. But we're going to be oceanfront here in Hellertown. Here's a city on the water. How much of it is going to disappear? If not all of it. if not all of it. I mean, if you see 100-year flood map, one of those ones, you know, that you can slide across, and here's what sea level rises at 10 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, 25 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet. Annapolis probably disappears. And I should think Baltimore does this too, if not most of the, you know, as the Chesapeake Bay fills and spreads out. So these are issues that you might not think the global climate can be, you know, how can we fix global climate change just here in Annapolis? Well, you know, truth of the matter is you can't. Annapolis in and of itself is not going to solve the global climate crisis, but they can help. And so can all of the surrounding communities around it. And so can Baltimore, and so can DC, and Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, and New York, and then Chicago, and Detroit, and then Minneapolis, and Dallas, and San Antonio, and Houston, and Vegas, and Boise, and Seattle, and Portland, and San Diego, and suddenly the whole country. And then that spreads north into Alberta and Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, and it spreads south to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City, and Cancun, and it spreads further south. And then, because we are a global community, this is the one. There is, you know, we can debate till the cows come home about whether the global community gives a crap about the fiasco that the U.S. has left in Afghanistan. Okay, you can have that debate. We certainly can't debate that there are whole island nations in the Pacific that are disappearing. And there will be nations in the Caribbean that will disappear. American territories that will disappear. The Virgin Islands will cease. They will be underwater. Most of Hawaii will be underwater. These things matter. We are a global community. And that leadership and that change has to start somewhere. And it might just start with you folks. It might just start with 6 solar panels on the roof. Or, as Kristen's parents have, a very, very sunny uncovered deck, which gets covered with a pergola made out of solar panels. And a rainwater collection system to flush toilets with and water plants with. We can do these things. We simply have to have the guts to do them. Gentlemen, I am beyond grateful for you being here. And even though we have a pretty sizable drive between us, I don't feel like it. I feel, you know, one of the great things about this program, I'd like to think that there's a lot of good things about this program, but one of the really great ones is the friends and relationships I make. I've been fortunate to have a lot of people who are already friends of mine on this program when I was struggling getting guests, and they said, I'll throw you a couple hours. But I continue to make more friends, and I have some bad news for you. You're part of the family now. So that means that we will call on you again. And I desperately hope, and regular listeners and viewers will go, oh, he's going into the teary spiel again. Well, yeah, kind of. I desperately hope that this is not the last time that we see you. You are part of the Kennedy Effect family now. Be you successful or not, and obviously we hope that you are, means your value is nothing, no less to us whether you are successful or not. Well, it's probably a little more if you are successful, because then I can say, I know. Then when I get busted on a parking ticket in Annapolis, I know Keanuu Brown. But you guys are part of the family. Please don't let this be the only time you come see us. Please come back. We want to follow the campaign. We want to know how it's going, which sounds odd considering there's only, what you said, what, 60 days left? About 60 days left. Yeah, 30 days. So let us know. Let us know.
Well, Jeff, we're going to win.
Checking in with us.
We're going to win, and then we're going to do a whole show about how to beat an incumbent. That's the goal.
We might have to do a live broadcast from Annapolis. What can I say?
Let's do it.
Swearing in day. Well, guys, thanks so much for being here. I really, really mean it. Thank you so much. I'm so blessed.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I'm honored to have 2 new friends in Annapolis. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I hope to see you, Jeff.
Have a
Hopefully-
great night, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a
All
blessed.
right, bye.
Hopefully you'll come down soon. Thank you. Peace. God
Folks at
bless.
home, we'll keep the phone line open for you, just probably just to the bottom of the hour. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. And remember, for folks like Keanuu, for folks like Dan and Christy that were with us last week, and for folks like, we're still planning to have Marianne, who wasn't able to be with us last week, last minute there, to come on and talk about these local elections. I think sometimes, and I don't believe in this, I don't think it's a very smart thing, but we tend to think that our pull, I guess, our influence on these bigger elections, these presidential elections, well, my one vote doesn't count when 150 million people are voting. And there's some places that I can actually make that case. Really are. I mean, Democratic presidential candidates usually win New Jersey by such a margin that even 10, 20, 30,000 votes, if people stay home, it makes no difference. When you drill down on these races to the most granular level, to the most municipal, the most local level, literally every single vote counts, every one. And you don't get to complain about how things are going in your town, in your school, when you do nothing to be part of it. If you are eligible to vote anywhere in the United States, and you know what, anywhere around the world. I know we have listeners in Australia. It's actually law. They have to vote. They get fined if you don't vote. Voter turnout is 96%. Wherever you are, if you are eligible and able and healthy enough to vote, then by God, please do so. If your vote meant so little, then an entire political establishment would not be trying to keep it from you or take it from you. And the facts are the facts are the facts. The Republican establishment, the big money, the oligarchy, the corporations, the neo-fascists are trying to keep entire populations of people, entire constituencies from voting. And some of it is not even based on such normal biases as color, but because you don't vote the way they want you to. Therefore, you mean nothing to them. So you might as well not vote. If you're not voting for us, we'll make sure you can't vote. Come on, folks, we're better. You have to go vote. I'm begging you to go and vote. Please go vote. Simply because the year we are in ends in an odd number, in this case, a 1, 2021, does not make your vote any less important. In fact, I can make an argument, and I just did, that it is more important. Because one vote in a much smaller pool of voters means that much more. So please go vote. If you can still register in the state or municipality that you are in, then please do so. If you can get a mail-in ballot, then please do so. If you are in California, you have a recall election coming. Isn't it hilarious how Republicans during the 2 impeachments cried about overturning legitimate elections results, but it's okay to recall the California governor twice in 20 years because rich Republicans don't like Democratic governors. I also think California should probably change its law. I don't think you should be able to recall a governor just because you feel like it. You should probably have to have some sort of bases to that or require a lot more signatures or something. But that said, isn't it funny how Republicans are, you can't impeach Trump, you're overturning the legitimate election results. Well, didn't California have legitimate gubernatorial election results? Isn't there another gubernatorial election coming up in another 2 years? Nope. A couple of billionaires throw around some money and boom, we have a recall election. Tell me how your vote doesn't count. If your vote didn't count, Republicans would not try so hard to steal it from you. It counts. It matters. We need you to take part. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Let me tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the next few weeks on the program. I'm looking in the wrong place. I was goofed up one of my devices. Let me get to my notes and I will tell you. Should have had this open. Sorry about that, kids. Next week, August 29 is the last weekend, the last unofficial weekend of summer. The last unofficial weekend of summer before Labor Day, the last weekend before the Labor Day weekend. August 29. Our guest is expected to be scheduled, is really going to be me and my dear friend Ryan Shea. Ryan is a former professional football player. And by the way, real football, that football, the football you play with your feet, the round ball that you kick and play with your feet and you can't touch it with your hands. Football, world football. He played professionally for the New York Red Bulls. And we're just going to talk football because all of world football is back in action. The 5 big leagues in Europe are back in action. The Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, the Bundesliga, and Liga 1 are all back in action. So we're going to talk football. We wanted to have a show that was different. You know, we always try to do a little something different. This one's almost completely different. And kind of maybe get away from politics for a bit and just do something a little more relaxing and talk about football and not about just how my club is going to finish, although they, boy, as brilliant as they looked on match day 1, they looked brutal this week. Dropped points already, not a good thing. In a 1-1 draw at Southampton, but the difference between football around the world and football here in the States, the growth of football in the States, the way MLS has tried to put American rules and restrictions and structure on a world game, the expansion of football, and on and on and on. So we're just going to talk football. Just a little something different as we head into a long holiday weekend. The last live program before Labor Day. We will be off on Labor Day. We will not be with you on Labor Day weekend. That's not next weekend. Next weekend's the 29th. Labor Day is the following. September 5th is Labor Day. We will not be with you for Labor Day weekend. The weekend of September 12th, Sunday, September 12th, we will have representatives here from the Progressive Democrats of America, an organization I am part of. They have become a pretty heavy hitter in the Democratic movement, the progressive movement, the Democratic Party, in supporting policies, supporting officials, pushing for single payer and broadened health care. We'll be talking with them. September 19 is PA State House candidate Colleen Gray Nguyen. She will be with us. I do have a program scheduled for September 26th, but I've realized that's also the Sunday of Celtic Fest in Bethlehem. And this Irish guy will not be drinking water at Celtic Fest. We might have to give that program a second thought. But that is the month of September here on the Kennedy Effect. We were so, I want to deeply, deeply thank our two guests, Vincent Moulden, a comms director, strategy head, campaign manager, unit, all sorts of different things for Keanuu Smith Brown, our other guest, the candidate for alderman, which is city council from his particular ward, Ward 3, in the city of Annapolis, Maryland. It's also nice to get a different perspective. Again, we talk about the deep, deep importance of local elections. You have every single day, you have interactions with your local government, whether you know it or not, whether you are conscious of it or not, whether it is in the forefront of your brain or not. And I don't just mean the local cop pulled me over for parking in the wrong place or for speeding or whatever. It could be trash collection. It could be stormwater runoff. It could be, it's your schools, your property values, your property taxes, your parks. You have interactions with your local government on a day-to-day basis. And again, you may not always be conscious of it, but you do on a day-to-day basis. So these local elections, if you are in a state where you have local elections, you have any kind of elections, I don't care, again, if it's New Jersey or Virginia, where you're talking governor and the legislature down to constable. I wrote myself in for constable of Lower Saucon Township and probably will do again. It would be pretty funny if I became constable. I think I'd be quite pleased. These things matter. Again, I can make the argument that you have more interaction on a day-to-day basis with your local government than you do any other level. You need to know about it. You need to be informed about it. You need to know who's running and for what. So please, I beg you all, go vote. If you are not registered, please register. It's too important. Don't let 10% of the population of your municipality or lower, 5%, 3%. Why should 3% of the people, 5% of the people, 10% of the people decide who represents you? You decide who represents you. So please go vote. That is our program for this week. I beg you to please get vaccinated. We are working on scheduling our booster shots here in this house. I beg you all, if you have not gotten vaccinated, please do so. If you are eligible for a booster, please find out how quickly you can get it. And if you think it's going to be a while, then schedule it and know that you're going to get it. Have that peace of mind. Get vaccinated. You cannot reopen schools. You cannot send your kids to school without masks. You cannot have your business and shopping and social lives back to pre-pandemic conditions without getting vaccinated. You fools. I don't do a lot of name calling in this show, but you fools who continue to stomp your feet like spoiled children who want a candy bar at the grocery checkout because you can't eat here and you can't go there and my kid's not wearing a mask. Why do you think that all has to happen? Because you're not getting vaccinated. Are you all going to stop wearing seatbelts? Will you stop paying attention to traffic signals? Will you stop placing your hand in boiling hot water? Because science tells you the boiling water will burn you. Well, I don't believe in science. Well, then pour the boiling water over your head and tell me how the science works. Will you jump off of a tall building because you don't believe the science that gravity means you're going to fall to the ground? You have turned common sense into a political issue. It is not. Science is not political. Science is facts. It is study. It is long-term study. Science sometimes changes. Turns out salt isn't as bad for you as we all thought it was. In an overabundance, it is. But for nearly a generation, we were told to avoid all salt. Turns out it's really not that bad. Coffee and caffeine are great for you. Unless it's too acidic on your stomach, but it doesn't hurt your brain. It's good for your brain. Science changes. We thought the Earth was the center of the universe. Then we thought our sun was the center of the galaxy. Science now tells us we are just one very, very ordinary, random solar system. Science changes and evolves, but it doesn't make it any less accurate or any less true. Just because we thought the Earth was the center of the universe and then science told us different doesn't make the science wrong. It makes our older perceptions wrong. So go get vaccinated. Please check on your neighbors, check on your friends, check on your family. And please have conversations with each other. Let's not shout and scream. Let's talk to each other. Until next time, which is next week when Ryan Shea is scheduled to join us. Until next week, for Associate Technical Producer Lynn Dare, for my technical producer George Dare, for DJ Earl and DJ Lex at Hot 101, for Marquise, Whitney, Sarge, and Taekwon at Taekwon. I don't know why I said that wrong. Why did I say that wrong? Taekwon, he said, at TCP. For the woman who got all of this started, April Riddick. For Kristen, I am Jeff Kennedy, and we will see you next week with another live edition of The Kennedy Effect next Sunday, August 29, 5 p.m. We'll see you then. Until then, please, please, please take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, everybody.